Tes tes. صباح الخير. إذا بتريدوا فيكم تاخدوا محلاتكم لحتى نبلش. Please take your seat. We are going to start in a couple minutes. صباح الخير. أهلا وسهلا فيكم بندوة الأدلة عن الشباب واليافعين بمنطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا للسنة الثانية على التوالي. شكراً لوجودكم معنا اليوم. اسمي ماريا إليسا مخلوف، عمري 21 سنة من لبنان.
صباح الخير، اسمي نسمة السامعي، عمري 21 سنة وأنا من اليمن.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second annual symposium. My name is Balqis Shaheen. I'm 21 years old and I'm from Jordan.
صباح الخير، أنا بشار حياني، عمري 24 سنة من سوريا.
So, the symposium is a very critical event regarding the MENA region. Since it focuses on improving the population's mind, it's also about translating evidence-based researches into actions. And we're here today to make the change that we want to see in this world.
ستركز ندوة الأدلة في هذا العام على الحلول التي تعمل، وبناء على قاعدة الأدلة التي تم تأسيسها في العام الماضي، فإن هذه الندوة تهدف إلى تحديد طرق متدرجة ومستدامة لمعالجة قضايا الانتقال من التعليم إلى العمل والعنف في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا.
بالسنة الماضية كان لي الفرصة أن أشارك بالندوة يلي صارت بعمان، وبالفعل كانت تجربة كتير حلوة بالنسبة لإلي، لأنه كانت مساحة تواصل للشباب مع صانعي القرار، كانوا عم يناقشوا مشاكلهم وكانوا عم يحطوا الاقتراحات والحلول يلي ممكن يقدروا ينفذوها. وبهيدي السنة ندوة كمان كانت عم تركز أكتر إنه تكون عم تخلي الشباب يشاركوا بكل المراحل وبكل المهمات يلي عم تصير لحتى هن يكونوا عم يطلعوا بالأفكار يلي بتعنيهم.
Okay, this year's symposium will be focusing on sustainable and scalable solutions that works.
And now we're going to introduce our very first guest for today. She is 16 years old, a young Jordanian activist. Her name is Huda Zaidan. Please everyone welcome Huda.
مرحبا، أنا هدى زيدان، عمري 16 سنة، أنا من فلسطين وعايشة في الأردن. عملت فيديو كليب، هذا الفيديو الصراحة عبرت فيه عن كل إشي بشعر فيه، عن كل إشي ممكن أي حدا شاب أردني أو شاب من الوطن العربي، شاب بتعرض لحرب ممكن إنه يواجه نفس المشاعر اللي أنا واجهتها. صحيح أنا ما تعرضت للحرب، بس كتير في ناس عارفهم وعايش معهم دمرت حياتهم بسبب إنهم تعرضوا للحرب. فكانت كثير فرصة حلوة لإلي إني أشارك بهاي الندوة، وبفتخر كثير إنه خلوني أشارك بهاي الندوة، وشكراً إلهم وثانك يو فيرا على هاي الدعوة. وبتمنى كثير إنه هاي الحلول يلي أنا كتبتها بالفيديو تبعي إنها تتحقق من قلبي يعني، وشكراً لكم.
لا شيء أصعب من أن تعيش مهمشاً. أذكر أنني عندما كنت طفلة كنت أراقب أطفال قريتي وهم يسيرون ببطء إلى مدارسهم. انتظرت بفارغ الصبر حتى جاء ذلك اليوم الذي جلست فيه على مقاعد الدرس، وسرت بخطوات متعجلة نحو مدرستي إلى الباب الأزرق الذي كان أملي المتجدد مع كل صباح. صديقي المفضل كان كتابي الذي حلمت كثيرا بإكماله، روايتي القريبة جدا إلى قلبي، تلك التي حملت قصة صديقة الدرب التي تمتلك نفس الحلم الذي تصبو إليه نفسي. كان شعارنا حب الحياة وترك الأثر فيها. حاولنا جاهدا أن نغير الواقع الذي نعيش بأن نجعل التعليم خارج أسوار المدرسة التي اقتنيناها، أن نطبق ما نتعلم. عرضنا هذه الفكرة على مدير المدرسة ولكنه همشها بل وهمشنا قائلا: من متى صرنا ناخذ برأي الطلاب؟ رغم أن الرفض كان حليفي في مسيرتي، كان الشيء الذي بداخلي يدفعني لأكرر المحاولة مرة أخرى. أنهت صديقة الدرب التي كانت تكبرني سنا دراستها الثانوية بمعدل عالي في الثانوية. اختارت اقتناء الأدب لإكمال مسيرتها، ولكن جاءها الرد المفاجئ من والدها بالرفض، والدها الذي تركها مع والدتها لوحدهم منذ سنوات، قائلا لها: أنا ما بضيع فلوسي عشان تفاهة. لم تترك ما تريد، تمسكت به بكامل إرادتها ودرست الأدب. تغيرت حياة صديقتي. أنا الآن أكاد أنهي الثانوية العامة، وهي الآن قابعة تحاول أن تحظى بفرصة عمل، فرصة تقربها من تحقيق حلمها بعد أن عادت إلى بلادها التي تعرضت للحرب. لذلك أنا خائفة من أن أسير في طريقها ومن ثم أبقى في مكاني، ومع ذلك ما زال داخلي يقول لي: لا تيأسي وأكملي روايتك، لأنه سيكون لقبك كاتبة. أحزن كثيرا لأن هذه القصة كقصة الكثير من الشباب في أفريقيا والشرق الأوسط المنتظرين لفرصة للتعبير عن ما يجول في أعماقهم، الشباب المتعرضين للعنف الذي يطمسهم عن فكرة التعبير، للحرب التي تنفيهم عن فكرة الوجود. لكن الأمل ينبض في داخل كل شخص منا، يحييه إلى مستقبل جديد، مستقبل منتظر، مساحة من التعبير، من المشاركة، الآن وليس غدا. الوقت للبدء من جديد، للعمل والتعبير بإحسان. سنواجه الحرب بالحب والفشل بالنهوض والنفي بالصراخ، ولكننا لن نستسلم، بل سنجعل ما نريد حقيقة واقعة.
شكراً هدى على هذا الفيديو المبدع والرائع. بدي أطلب من المنظمين يتفضلوا لهون إذا بتريدوا. The organizers, please, can you take your seats here? ومعنا اليوم من المنظمين مستر محمد حراجلي AUB Provost، أنا لورا ساكو Senior Regional Protection Coordinator من UNHCR MENA، أليسون زالكوفيت من Save the Children Lebanon Country Director، كولين لي Regional Program Director from Plan International MENA، خيرت كابيلاري UNICEF Regional Director، and نور حمامي from Voices Group. بعتقد نور منا موجودة اليوم معنا، بس أنا بسرعة رح خبركم شو هو الVoices Group. الVoices Group هو مجموعة من الشباب كانوا عم يشاركوا بكل مراحل التحضير للندوة من الأول. يعني هن كانوا عم يساعدوا بالتصميم للندوة، عم يحطوا معايير الاختيار للأبحاث، عم يكونوا مشاركين باللجنة التوجيهية للندوة، وهلأ كمان عم يشاركوا بتيسير الجلسات وبكل المهمات يلي عم تصير. وهلأ رح نكون مع زميلتي نسمة. شكرا.
Okay, let us welcome the panel again. We will keep this quick because we have a busy long day. So starting with Mr. Muhammad Harajli.
Good morning, everyone. Fellow organizers, esteemed guests, AUB officials, and friends. On behalf of AUB, I would like to welcome you to the 2018 Middle East and North Africa Evidence Symposium in Adolescents and Youth, and to welcome you also to our campus in Beirut. I'm also very glad to see among us participants, students, dignitaries from all over the Arab world, apparently from Syria, from Palestine, from Yemen, from Morocco, from Egypt, did I forget any country? From Jordan, of course. You are most welcome to AUB. Thank you. This symposium, organized by UNICEF's MENA office, is unique and invaluable since it is tailored to discuss issues pertaining to the young men and women of the Middle East and North Africa. Those women and men are the main drive and our only hope for a better future. And we at AUB speak confidently of its necessity. After working for decades with the youth in my academic career at AUB, I know for a fact that they are most motivated to apply their ideas and invest their energy in creating a positive impact on their societies. By considering ways to translate the potential and enthusiasm of the young generation into assets for positive advancement and development, this symposium comes to reassure the role of the youth in shaping the future of this region. Focusing on solutions, this year's symposium will build on the evidence-based established in last year's symposium and engage adolescents and youth, policymakers, practitioners, and civil society activists to identify scaled and unsustainable solutions to address issues such as education, employment transition, engagement, as well as gender and violence in the MENA region. This second symposium on adolescents and youth comes at a critical time. Our youngsters are faced with challenges on a daily basis. Some of the highest rates of unemployment are in this region, are in this part of the world, and we all know that. Political instability threatens global investments and the sustainable path in the markets. The current refugee crisis in our region is at a scale never seen or never have been precedented since World War II. And it has created unprecedented for refugees themselves and for the hosting communities, challenges that many youngsters have the drive to address. It is our duty as educators, as scholars and the practitioners to extend a helping hand and make all our resources available to channel their potential in the right direction. At AUB, we are keen on empowering our students, not only to become successful in their fields, but also to play an important role in leading the region towards a better future. As a tertiary education institution in the region, we strongly believe in the importance of promoting adult well-being as well as facilitating and encouraging the meaningful contribution of youth to community and societal development. We are also committed to integrating social and life skills within the curriculum to better prepare graduates of this region for the current and next decade challenges that they are facing and that are facing them in the region, such as poverty, inequities, wars, and unemployment. AUB is a university that for the past 152 years has thrived amid repeatedly emerging instabilities. It is no secret that this region or this part of the world did not witness a stretched period of good times in the near history. Yet despite all, AUB has managed to educate the best intellectuals, statesmen, scientists, engineers, and doctors of the Arab world. Our graduates live up to our motto engraved on our main gate, that they may have life and have it more abundantly. At AUB, we are not looking just to give our students a better life. We are equipping them to make the world a better place. Through service and for years, we have thrived to impact the lives of the most vulnerable members of our societies. In fact, it is our duty as a world-class university in the heart of Beirut to serve the underprivileged to the limits of our ability. Today, AUB is leading on the AUB for Refugees. This is one example, which is a platform enabling quality and the progressive research that aims at developing policies and finding solutions related to the relief architecture. Also, in the last few years, and with the help of our civic engagement and community services, we established portable schools for providing quality education to thousands of young refugees with ages between 4 and 18 located in the Bekaa Plain in Lebanon. Not to forget that AUB has excellent scholarship programs to support needy but bright young students in Lebanon and the region. Through scholarship support provided by United States Agency for International Development, USAID, also by the Middle East Partnership Initiative, MEPI, also by the MasterCard Foundation to support students from Africa in the Sub-Saharan, also by the Abdullah Al-Ghurair Foundation program, as well as in-house initiatives at AUB itself. We at AUB are able to provide today education to more than 600 young and bright students that would have not been possible without this support. Also, AUB provides financial support through the financial aid program to more than 50% of the student body, allocating more than $30 million of university operating funds per year for students' financial aid. And we keep going in that direction. In concluding, I want to thank all the panelists, the organizers, and experts who have dedicated their time and effort to make this symposium happen. I wish you all an enjoyable and informative day and a most productive symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Harajli. Moving to Annie Laura Sacco.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to join you, first of all, to thank you and your amazing colleagues and bodies of teachers and professors, not just to hosting us so graciously, but also to showing such a good example throughout the region. I think today the Evidence Symposium in the second reiteration reiterate how it is important for all of us, holding hand in hand, like you have demonstrated in your video, to empower the youth, but not just looking at the youth, but looking at children and adolescents. And in this, I would like to really thank the organizer, in particular Amit, Kating, and all the colleagues from the various agencies that have removed their caps, the T-shirts, the logos, and have really worked on what is important for us, looking at the needs of those that have been forcibly displaced. There's nothing more heartbreaking than see that every day, every minute, one person, one family is forced to flee their home, leaving behind not just family members, but the community, their own schools, and as you indicated, the blue door that opens so many opportunities. It's in this regard that myself, together with the agency and in full cooperation with the partners around the board, have been so hardly working on the needs of all these places within MENA in particular, but across. I'm sure you're all familiar with the tremendous work that No Lost Generation, together with all the other platforms for cooperation, is really bringing up the needs of children in accessing protection, life-saving activities, adolescents, and as well as youth, to ensure what you were discussing and presenting before. The children are given the tools, but also they are brought into empowering them and working with them to realize their own future. I like to reiterate how important this symposium is also in light of the other platforms that are happening in amplifying the voices of all the programs, the donorship, and the effort of all the community to really give the voice, or actually give the microphone to those that have more to say. And this is what I like about this evidence symposium, because from what I've seen in the poster outside, on all the preparation that have been done, there is so much that we can contribute, but we need still to listen and to learn. And this is why I look forward in the next 2 days to learn what are our responsibility in ensuring that not only access to safety, but to education, to birth registration are secure and granted, that access to tertiary education is maintained. We have done so much remarkable achievement in birth registration in the region, as well as access to primary education. A lot has to be done in accessing tertiary and beyond, and this is one of our responsibility to continue. This, as we said, beyond Syria, and I'm so happy to see that we are talking also on Yemen, on Libya, but also countries that are not yet affected by the war, because the need of children should not come at the front line only when the country's life is put at risk. And especially in the development and the connection between humanitarian effort and development, when we can really make the difference. My colleagues have tried to bring me all a lot of energy to be here today, but what is it humbling is really to look forward the discussion that are happening in the next 2 panels in terms of protection from gender-based violence in all its forms and shapes, but also the realization of opportunities. So really trying to translate the gaps into opportunities is really what I'm looking forward from listening from the 2 panels. The commitment is there. We are all here. I think this is another element of where we can go, and I really promise that all the lessons that I'm having and receiving, I'll make sure to disseminate to our country team and make sure that the efforts are spread across, really coming on the ground from field-based perspectives. I'm here to listen, and I'm very grateful for the translation, and I'm really sorry I don't speak the language, but I really want to hear all the voices, and I don't want to take too much time as it was required. But I look forward to very ongoing and dynamic consultation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Ana Laura. Now moving to Alison Zalkovitz.
Good morning. Save the Children is very happy to take part again in this regional symposium and reiterate our commitment to young people in this region. We know that young people can make a difference in their communities and in the world. One 18-year-old we worked with in one of our child rights governance programs, her name was Naveen, and she identified children's concerns in Beirut's southern suburbs. Safety was their top priority, and they also wanted more places for children to play. After speaking to the head of the municipality, she saw more police and security presence in the area, and new activities for children started, as well as a new library opened. Following this experience, Naveen said, "My personality changed. I'm more capable of presenting my ideas without any hesitation. I have the ability to stand up and face people. I have self-confidence, and I am being heard now." It's exciting to see so many people like Naveen actively participating in this symposium, presenting their evidence and work. It is also wonderful to see so many countries here as well. We know these are not easy times for young people in the region. We see widespread violence and conflict, and how this affects young people at home, at work, in schools, online, and in our communities. We see discrimination, increasing levels of poverty, and boys and girls having to work when they should be in school. We see forced displacement, political and criminal violence, and the effect of climate change. All are impacting the opportunities young people enjoy, limiting their possibilities and contribution, reinforcing their exclusion, and making the transition to adulthood very hard. Yet in spite of this, young people in the Middle East and North Africa are resilient. We see every day how young people are taking active roles to change things. And this is what Save the Children is committed to supporting across the region and here in Lebanon. learning from all of you and listening carefully to what you have to say and partnering with you. We want to support you in bringing your voices to decision makers, governments, and donors. We want to advocate with you to get greater support for your initiatives and for a stronger civil society that has space to raise your concerns. I look forward to hearing from young people, practitioners, governments, and all actors about realistic solutions to some of the challenges that young people are facing in the Middle East and North Africa today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alison. Now moving to Mr. Collinley.
Sabah al-Khair. Alison just mentioned, I think, some of the enormous challenges that don't seem to be going away anytime soon in this region in particular. We've seen from the increases in early child marriage and child labour rates that highlight the importance to reiterate the need for multi-sectoral responses, a need to tackle the underlying causes and promote empowerment and resilience. In Jordan, and we're always bombarded with statistics, we know that 50% of university graduates are young women, yet they represent just over 10% of the labour market. Plan International is focused on children's rights and the equality for girls and has been doing so for over 80 years. We're committed to them in the MENA region. We must continue to promote gender equality and engage adolescent girls and female youth by highlighting their voices, your voices, to change social norms and address the root causes of gender-based violence. We're not only here to listen to you, to the voices of young people, but to understand and actively support, engage, and partner. We should be held accountable how we support vulnerable youth and adolescents as they articulate, and as you articulate, innovative responses to injustices that are faced on a daily basis. Not only by engaging with you and participating, but also providing opportunities for you and following them as they lead us through the challenges and solutions that you articulate. The way that we speak with youth, about youth, and in a way that empowers them to have more control and to drive these changes in their schools, your homes, and societies. We are here as allies to youth and adolescents. Merci.
Mr. Collinley, now having Mr. Khit Kabulari.
Colleagues, friends, Sabah al-Khair. And for the women only, Sabah al-Ful, Sabah al-Yasmin, Sabah al-Ward. Despite many years in the region, I have to admit that is where my Arabic starts, but where it also ends. So my apologies up front. Let me join colleagues by first and foremost thanking you, Iman, thanking you, Mohammed, for hosting us here today. I have to admit that since the first day I have been working in the Middle East and Northern Africa region, every single day I am reminded, not least by many of my colleagues, of how important the American University in Beirut is, not only for Lebanon, for the region, for the world. So I find it really a privilege for the very first time then be here on the campus. So thank you so very much for hosting us today. Last week, I was asked by a journalist with whom I had discussed the situation in the region and how it does affect children in the region. The journalist asked me, how hopeful are you for the region? And I said to the journalist, well, there are two answers to your question. If I would answer from a political perspective, I would be probably very nuanced in terms of how bright the future of the region is. However, if I would answer your question from the engagement that I can have with children and young people in this region, there is only one answer, and that is that there is a lot of hope in this region. So that makes, for me, for us, this symposium such a unique and timely initiative. Unique because we are not going to discuss the problems that the region is facing, but we're going to reflect together on solutions, not necessarily to all of the problems, but to some of the problems and the solutions coming from young people themselves. It is also very timely. We will hear later a presentation, a short presentation on a report that was recently launched called Generation 2030, showing that today there is that demographic dividend, that there is that potential of young people representing a big part of the society in the region. So an incredible potential out there if only we invest in it. Also very important that for this symposium, timely is to go through all the solutions indeed that young people have come up with. And of course, we will discuss in depth those 24 that have been selected, carefully selected. But looking at every single submission, each and every submission is telling us what an incredible energy there is out there, what an incredible creativity is out there. So this makes the symposium an opportunity not only to listen, but also think together how we're going to carry this energy, this creativity, these solutions forward. It is clear that if we are serious about this, that no single agency, no single entity alone can do this. And that makes, again, of the symposium such an incredible, powerful initiative, because it brings together a range of partners who together are probably the best guarantee that the solutions may come to a reality. So it is incredibly grateful to see today representatives of government, representatives of national and international NGOs, representatives of private sector, representatives of the UN agencies coming together. But last but not least, the young people. So again, partnering with young people, not just for young people, but with young people is part of the solution. So again, congratulations for this initiative. We are very happy as UNICEF to be part of this initiative, and please continue counting on us. We will do our share for this not to be a single event, but one that is going to be sustained. So thank you so much. Shukran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khir. نور حمامي من Voices Group صارت معنا هلا، بحب رحب فيها. تفضلي نور، بتحب تخبرينا شوي عن مجموعة Voices؟
هاي، اسمي نور حمامي من سوريا حلب، عمري 25 سنة. من فترة وجيزة انضميت لأصوات الشباب. كانت تجربة كتير حلوة. قدرنا نشارك أفكار بعض، مشاكل بعض، مو بس من سوريا، من كل الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. جمعنا كتير معلومات، عرفنا كتير من المشاكل، مو بس بالمنطقة اللي احنا الموجودين فيها، لا بكل المناطق. جمعنا كتير تفاصيل دقيقة، وخصوصا أنا كنت كمان في لجنة التحكيم. مرقت علي كتير أبحاث من مصر، من تركيا، من جوردان. يعني كانت فرصة كتير حلوة لتبادل أفكار، لتبادل المشاكل، لصناعة الحلول اللي فعلا هي بتكون مستدامة، وهي بتكون للشباب وللشباب الكل. يعني هاي الحلول رح تكون فاعلة، بتوقع نتائج كتير حلوة بعد هالندوة، لأني أفكار كانت بالشباب وهي للشباب. شكراً كتير.
شكرا نور وشكرا لكل المنظمين. بدي أطلب منكم تتفضلوا على محلاتكم.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much. هلا رح ننتقل لأول جلسة من ندوتنا اليوم اللي هي جلسة الأدلة الإقليمية والعالمية اللي بتختص بالشباب. ليش لازم يكون عنا أدلة؟ لازم يكون عنا أدلة حتى نعرف شو هي المشاكل يلي عم يعانوا منها الشباب، كيف تغيرت هيدي المشاكل إن كان من السنة الماضية والأدلة يلي كان عنا إياها من السنة الماضية، أو شو هي الأشياء يلي بنقدر نحسن فيها، وشو هي الأشياء يلي تعلمناها وممكن نكون عم نستفيد منها كرمال نكون عم نتوجه لهيدي المشاكل. وكرمال نبلش هيدي الجلسة بدي أطلب من المتحدثين بهيدي الجلسة يتفضلوا. بدي أطلب من بيرنا بناتي تتفضل لهون. Arthur van Diezen. Arthur. Okay. Rania Al-Jazairi. And Dr. Mona Al-Khalidi.
Again, we have time limitation. Every presenter will present like 10 minutes, starting with Prerna Banati.
Is it working now? Okay, great. Sorry. Apologies. Well, thank you very much for this invitation, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share some of the evidence that is coming from UNICEF and from others in the space around young people, adolescents and young people. It's very exciting to be here in Beirut and to be at this world-class center. Very much and very much to be back here in the second edition of this symposium. What I'm going to share with you today is really not exhaustive, and it cannot be in a 20-minute presentation. But I think it tries to exemplify some of the issues that I think are relevant for our discussions in the coming few days. Next slide, please. Sorry.
Next slide.
Okay. So what I hope to present today is three as we put it up, three pieces. The first part is to look a little bit at the why and really understanding for us why is it important that we are investing now in looking at young people, adolescents and young people? What is so timely about this now? And the second piece looks a little bit at what we're calling a framework for adolescent programs. And this framework is an evidence-informed model, and we call it the 3 windows. So I'll share with you the 3 windows. And then the last section looks a little bit at the insights for programming, drawing on global evidence, which are relevant to the fields that are presented here today. Great. So very quickly, why adolescents? Why now adolescents and young people? And I think this is really coming back to some of the fundamentals. Gert mentioned really the demographics, and I think today's cohort of adolescents and young people is the largest in history, and I think we have to keep that in mind. Arthur is going to be speaking to the demographic questions and what the evidence is from the demographic situation. But it is a unique window of opportunity for many countries to exploit, and I think this is a very important point from the evidence. Secondly, I think it's important to remember that globally there has been significant investments in early childhood. The MDGs were very much focused on early childhood, and many of those young children are growing into adolescence today. But we also know that the MDGs left us with a legacy of inequalities, and this raises important questions about how do we, knowing that children did not benefit equally from the MDGs, how do we reprioritize actions to advance progress of those most left behind? It's really questions around inequality that still remain today that need to be addressed. And the third one is that technology has significantly changed the landscape in which we're doing programming, but also the landscape in which young people are living today. So these are 3 really reasons why we we're focusing on building the evidence base for young people today, and why we're focusing on programs and interventions that are important for this group. I'd like to move to the next slide. In doing so, we've developed, see this, can I do up there? Yeah, maybe it's easier. This is better, great. So just to go back a slide, I think. So the 3 windows that I mentioned earlier, and those are the 3 windows of intervention that have been developed, and these are really very much based on evidence, based on the science. And here, this is a proposal that we are suggesting as a way to think about programming. Young people represent a resource really to be cultivated through education and training, and the 3 windows offers a lens to re-examine some of our programming choices, how research is conducted, and to help guide policy and advocacy efforts, and how we evaluate interventions for young people. It moves away from an age segmentation approach, which I think is a real risk for how we look at this life period, towards a life course approach, and unpacks issues around turning points, trajectories, and transitions. So in taking this life course framing, we have 3 windows. The first is a unique window, this changing mind and body. The second one is a second window of opportunity, what we're calling catching up. And the third one is a window looking into the future. And I'm going to present provide examples from the evidence of these 3 windows and where the evidence demonstrates them. The first one is around the unique window, the crucial biological, endocrinal, neurological, and psychological changes that happen during this period. And here we have 2 examples. The first one is an example from the neuroscience, and I think this is growing in terms of the science, how we understand brain development. We know that many experience and exposures happen only during this period. Puberty happens during this period. So undeniably, I think we have to think about the unique nature of adolescence. And the example here on the neuroscience demonstrates essentially that what we're seeing is that the brain is still developing during this period. The MRI and a lot of the advanced technologies looking at brain imaging in particular has revealed that the plasticity of the brain continues. The prefrontal cortex continues to develop through this period. The adolescent brain undergoes a process of synaptic elimination and pruning, which is frequently used to strengthen connections and ensures that the efficiency of the brain is improved over this period. The connectivity of the region supports reasoning, and we get a heightened sensitivity as well, a heightened sensitivity to immediate rewards during this period, but also a heightened physiologic response to stress. Much of these brain development, these changes continue into the early 20s. And has implications for skills development. And I think we do need to unpack a little bit about what are the implications for the development of skills during this time. And the science is still building and evolving in this space. The second graph at the bottom shows an example from Malawi, in fact, of unpaid care work. This is a graph showing the number of hours in the previous day that was spent on providing care. And the blue line is for boys and men, and the red line is for girls. And from the start, and you can see until older age, the large gulf between what care is provided by girls and boys. And this graphic, I think, we've seen it in lots of countries. It's 5 times higher for girls by the time they hit adolescence, and it lasts their lifetime. So it's a unique moment of intervention here, the adolescent period, to redress some of the gender inequalities that we see as well. The next slide is about a second window. And this is, again, emerging evidence. Can we catch up? Can we see catch up during the second window? And there are, the science is certainly not complete in this space, but I want to give you some insight and some examples that are available. So there is increasing evidence now to support this, and we know that there are links between the early childhood window and the adolescent window. And research, for example, by Costello has shown that in longitudinally surveyed children between the ages of 9 and 16 who were assessed annually, that low birth weight, in fact, predicts adolescent depressive disorders for girls. So we know that there are direct links between these windows. And perhaps some of the most arresting evidence is related to reversals in stunting, which now is associated, which we know is associated with long-term harmful consequences, including the ability and increased risks in nutrition disorders, a variety of outcomes. So a recent study by Young Lives has shown that the possibility of catch-up growth during adolescence it does exist, and this is quite new in the science. It's new information, and the evidence shows that while stunting is largely irreversible in the first 1,000 days, the opportunity to redress some of that, the opportunity to follow up, to address the impacts from early childhood during the adolescent period is possible. I think this is very interesting information. I think it has a potential to shift how we think about programming for young people. If we can think about using the opportunity of a second window to redress imbalances and inequalities from earlier childhood. There needs to be a lot more research and science done in this space around cognitive development in different domains to see where are those points of intervention where we can actually reduce the inequalities that appear during the second decade. The third window is a rather intuitive one, I think, and it's one about both thinking about lifetime behaviors, but also about those intragenerational impacts, but also the intergenerational impacts, the impacts for the next generation. Today's adolescents are the parents of tomorrow. So keeping both of these pieces as windows into the future, we can think about the effects of interventions as being enduring for young people at this age. The lifetime benefits of health behaviors adopted during this period, for example, such as diet and exercise, are well documented. Positive behaviors instilled during adolescence tend to continue into adulthood, but so do negative behaviors. And the cigarette manufacturers and the food and beverage industry know this very well. So it can be an opportunity to form habits. Evidence shows that it's a sensitive developmental period for negative exposures, and experiences can have these long-term effects. Work by Falcone shows that boys who experience stressors in early adolescence are more likely to have shorter lifespans than those who experience stressors later in life. Work in the Netherlands as well, looking at famines, has shown that the impact of famines at 11 to 14 for those who experience significant undernutrition at those ages showed the high probability of developing diabetes and arterial disease at the age of 60. So these can endure much beyond the adolescent years. And of course, young people don't only impact their lives, but impact the lives of future generations. They are the parents of tomorrow, as I said. And these interventions have intergenerational impacts. And there's a significant amount of research to show that, for example, nutrition interventions for pregnant adolescent mothers has impacts on their children. So I think there's a huge amount there. This is just a way to frame and think a little bit about how do we look at the evidence and how can it inform our programming. I'm now going to go through four key summary evidence highlights, if you like. And they're drawn largely from this volume. So this volume came out in 2018. There are copies of the flyer outside. So if anyone would like to pick up a flyer, this volume becomes open access in about a week and a half. So you should be able to find the entire set of chapters and the state of the evidence on adolescents and young people freely available to you. It's on UNICEF's website, and the web URL is on this document. What I want to share with you are four key headlines. And I think some of them are quite intuitive, but at the same time, they're very substantiated by the evidence. And the way in which we approach programs is critical. The way in which the evidence helps to support the programs is very critical in this. And the four here, the first one is around age-appropriate and gender-responsive interventions. And I think increasingly we're seeing that age and gender are a crucial nexus. But not always very well treated in how we look at young people and how we look at the programming, and policy making for them. Looking at issues around evolving capacity over this period, which is very diverse from the ages of 10 to 25. We need to really think about also the delicate balance between protection and participation for this group. So here's a concrete example. This is a study of violent discipline in the home in Peru. Looking at sort of at the age, and you can see the age range of adolescents there, and young people, it goes up from 9 to 24. Looking at how girls and boys in different contexts and in different spaces experience violence differently. Girls were experiencing more violence at home, and that increased with age. Boys were at higher risk of experiencing physical violence at schools. Boys were more likely to be victims of violence when they were younger and to become perpetrators as they got older. And boys and girls experienced different types of physical violence, and their risks changed. So this is sort of where the evidence is very important. This evidence in Peru actually helped to shape quite a bit of their policies around violence in schools, for example. So trying to understand and unpack the determinants, but also the age and gender profiles, makes a very important contribution to programming. The second one is really around some gaps in policy coherent approaches, and here we've seen this from the evidence. Young adolescents tend to slip between the cracks. There's a large focus on risky behaviors, and we see that very clearly. We see a lot more in the spaces around tobacco control, around sexual behavior, and much less around the positive strengthening policies that we would like to see to encourage participation. We also find that younger children tend to be covered by policies for young children, whereas youth tend to be covered by youth policies, but we have this 10 to 14 age gap globally that seems to be uncovered in some ways through different policy approaches. So there are gaps. One of the key gaps here is the example around policy coherence. There's an incoherence in minimum ages. So these are two examples, one from Eastern and Europe and Central Asia, and the other one from South Asia, looking at different minimum ages in the legislation and in different policies. And here what we see is that they vary across a wide array of issues. voting, marriage, and employment, these are all different ages. There are different treatments for boys and girls. You can see that in the legal age of marriage between boys and girls, different. And so I think we need to think about what does policy coherence mean. It's one young person, and yet the policies are so divergent in how they approach them. So thinking critically about policy coherence, I think, is an important next step. The third one is around context and environmental risk, and I think that's quite clear and important, and we're well aware of the importance of looking at it. I think what I want to highlight here is how important it is. So a recent review of looking at HIV/AIDS programming, for example, globally, looking at HIV and sexual transmitted infections. And they looked at a range of programs, school-based sexuality education, voluntary male medical circumcision, the entire spectrum. And the theme that cut through successful programs was that they attended to the contextual features of adolescents' environments that put them at risk. And in fact, the study shows that programs that looked at gender and that looked at power in sexual relationships were 5 times more effective. So this is a huge possibility and I think perhaps for us to try as folks who are very much engaged in the space, working with young people, to try and understand the context and the environment to help us strengthen and improve the effectiveness of programs. Here's an example from education and employment. With a review of 33 impact evaluations, a very recent study, in fact, that shows that reductions in labor and decisions about child labor are very much related to the vulnerability at the household level. So really looking at the household level, and this is very clear from the evidence, I think, but it's just how important is it, and I think we do need to get these things right. And then the last piece that comes out from the volume is around the contribution of families and non-family adults both. And I think there's increasingly work that's been showing both that families are central and critical even in adolescent lives, but also that non-family adults have roles to play: teachers, peers, coaches. Research on parenting programs finds that the structure of the family is really important. It depends if there's a father present or they're residing with or without biological parents. And a rigorous randomized control trial, which is the one that was led by UNICEF Innocenti. And this example is in South Africa, shows that a well-developed program can reduce violence and prevent physical and emotional violence in young people. Work by Scales, also in the volume, shows that in his study of 30,000 young people in 30 countries, that children who had significant and high-quality developmental relationships with non-family adults had better scores across the board for a variety of developmental domains, including positive identity, workforce readiness, and a variety of other well-being indicators. So again, parents, but also the wider environment. So again, just a snapshot, I really would like to point you to the resources out there and a few others as well. There is a research digest on adolescence that quarterly puts out the state of where we are. This is current knowledge that's published in the last quarter. It's available in English, French, and Spanish, and you can find it at the Innocenti website. We also have a series of evidence gap maps. These are, what is the state of the evidence in each of these domains by region, by age. You can break it down in different ways, and it's an interactive tool. You can click on it, and it'll tell you exactly what studies form part of which boxes. To me, what's interesting is what's not populated. What do we not know? And you can see some of the boxes are empty. So there's also a paper on that that helps to explain a little bit of the methodology. We have a 4-year program of work on adolescence that has approximately 200 peer-reviewed journal articles. A lot of them are also online and on the UNICEF IRC website, including the key outcomes here. These are the ones that I presented last year at the symposium. And then lastly, the volume outside, which you can please help yourself to the flyers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Benetti, Chief of Planning, Research Center, UNICEF. Now we're having on stage Mr. Arthur Van Diesen, Regional Advisor, Social Policy, UNICEF, and we have also Rania Al-Jazairi, First Social Affairs Official, Social Justice Section, Social Development Division.
Well, good morning. My name is Arthur Van Diesen, and I'm taking you on time travel today because the slide actually says 13th of September. That was a few weeks ago. We're here today. I have been given the opportunity to talk to you about a new report that is coming out from UNICEF, a collaborative effort between UNICEF headquarters and the regional office for the Middle East and North Africa on demographic changes, changes to the size and the structure of the population in this region. The reason we started investigating this at UNICEF is that often our time frame is very short. We look ahead a few years at a time, and particularly in a region where everything is about change all the time. So many unexpected events are happening. Sometimes we forget about what is down the line 20 years, 30 years from now. So we took a step back and said, okay, let us actually look at the dramatic changes that are happening and are going to happen in this region in terms of the size of the population and the structure of the population, particularly the age structure of the population. What are the challenges that that brings, and what are the opportunities that that brings? The report will be on the Youth and Adolescent Hub in the next 2 weeks. I can only give you a few of the snippets, a few of the highlights in the time that I've been allotted. So let us look, first of all, at the overall size of the population. So on this slide, we see that the Middle East and North Africa are going to continue to see quite significant population growth. So on this slide, you see the red dots. That's the percentage change in the population that we project between now and 2030. The blue dots is the percentage change we're expecting between now and 2050. And you see that, yes, the region overall is growing, but some countries see their population grow much faster than others. On one end of the spectrum, on the left-hand side, you see Iraq, which is going to see its population more than double by 2050. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Lebanon, which is going to see its population actually decrease by 2030 and by 2050. So a growing region, but growing at very different speeds. The other thing that I want to highlight for you is that on the left-hand side of the spectrum, see the countries we're mentioning there. So the Iraq, Palestine, Sudan, Syria, Yemen. These happen to be the countries that are experiencing conflict, that are experiencing protracted humanitarian situations. That is something that is important to bear in mind as we go through these findings. So the reason that we're interested in all this change is not just because of the size of the population, it's also about the structure, the age structure of the population. Because something very interesting is happening as the population is living through that demographic change process, which is that the dependency ratios are actually changing. So gradually, as the population's age structure is changing, we have a lower share of the population that is under 15 and that is over 65, and a growing share of the population that's between 15 and 64. That's a huge opportunity because having such a large share of the population that it's in its most productive age category means that can be a real boost for the economy, for national wealth. It can bring a lot of creativity and energy and really lift the region up to a completely different level. So that is what we mean when we talk about the demographic dividend. So the wealth, the national wealth that is created as a result of this temporary age structure where you have such a large proportion of your population in the most productive years. And that's illustrated on the next slide. So what you see on this slide is in the green bars, this is the share of the population that is below 15. Now you see that that share has actually already started dropping since the 1970s and started accelerating since the 1990s. So the dependency ratio in terms of the youngest share of the population has already started dropping. What you see in the brownish color there is the share of the population that's over 65. That is going to start increasing as the age structure of the population changes. So we have a window between now and 2040 where you see that this overall dependency ratio is at its lowest. Now, that is an opportunity we cannot miss. That is an opportunity to really boost national wealth, to boost economic growth, to grow that national pie of resources. But when we drill down, of course, we see that different countries are at very different stages. You already saw how big the difference is between an Iraq and a Lebanon, for example. So countries are at very different stages. There are some countries in the region that are pre-dividend, we say. So they still are at a relatively early stage. Fertility is still very high. They still have a relatively high dependency ratio. And for them, the window of opportunity hasn't really opened yet, which is a good thing because they still have the opportunity to take all the policy measures that are required to maximize that demographic dividend. Here we're talking about countries like Iraq, Sudan, Yemen, and the state of Palestine. Then there are the early dividend countries. So the countries that are already seeing reduced fertility and therefore a reducing child dependency ratio. They are already right in the middle of that window of opportunity. But they need to act now in order to still translate that into a demographic dividend. Here we are talking about the bulk of the countries in this region. For some countries, it is already getting late. The window is slowly beginning to close already. These are the late dividend countries. Low child dependency ratio, but an increasing already elderly dependency ratio. And here we're talking about some of the countries in the Gulf, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait. We're also talking about Lebanon, Morocco, and Tunisia. This is illustrated further on the next slide. So here we see where these different countries are in terms of the stage they're in terms of the demographic dividend. So in the light green, we see the countries that are currently in the pre-dividend stage. Darker green, early dividend. Then the orange is the late dividend period, and red is post-dividend. Post-dividend is when that window of opportunity is already closed. You now see your dependency ratio increasing again. What is striking about this chart is that countries are at different stages, and they also move through these different stages at very different speeds. Look at Iran, for example, which has a very short window of late dividend before it is already post-dividend. So it's really important to dig into the details per country and to see where your country is in terms of that transition, and then to take the right policy decisions to still make sure that there is a demographic dividend. Now, we talked about a demographic dividend. A demographic dividend doesn't come about simply as a result of a changing age structure. There are some prerequisites. If there is war, if there is instability in the country, obviously the age structure isn't going to translate into that boosted economic growth. If young people are not sufficiently educated, if they are not healthy, if they're not well nourished, if there are no opportunities for them, this demographic dividend is not going to happen. Particularly, of course, we need expanded employment opportunities for young people to make this dividend happen. So, as I said, the most favorable period is between now and 2040, which means action is required now. We looked at two examples, two applications of this work around demographic projections, looking at what the implications might be. And I want to highlight these for you. So first of all, implications of all of this for education service provision. So first of all, we see that there is still going to be an increase in the period up to 2030 in the overall school-age population. That increase is going to be of about 23% by 2030. So obviously, these young people need to be accommodated in the education system. But where it gets interesting is if you start breaking that down by the stage that these different countries are in. So in the pre-dividend countries, you'll still see a significant increase in preschool and primary levels, up to 20 and 30%. But early and late dividend countries will actually see a decrease at pre-primary level and only very modest increases at primary level. So it's clear that the bulk of the increase is actually at secondary level. It's in lower and upper secondary education. So that means that has to inform our investment in the education system. We need to give serious attention to access to secondary education, but also to quality of secondary education. We also looked at the implications for the school-to-work transition, because, as we said, lots of young people are entering the labor market, but obviously they need to be well educated, there need to be employment places for them. So by 2030, we found that the Middle East and North Africa will see an increase of 39 million new entries into the labor force, so an increase by 27%. And all of these young people need a place on the labor market. They need to be absorbed by that labor market. The youth labor force, as you can see in this graph, is going to grow the fastest in the pre-dividend countries. So these countries that we saw, the Yemens and the Syrias, Iraqs, etc. Followed by the early dividend countries. And in the late dividend countries, we see that the youth labor force is already no longer growing. Now, we know that youth unemployment in the region is the highest in the world. We also know that labor force participation is low, particularly amongst young women. There are many reasons for this, but one reason is that the education system isn't currently nurturing the skills that are demanded by these rapidly changing economies of the region, and that needs to change. So investment in access to education, also investment in the quality of education. The last thing I want to highlight for you is the enormous potential of young women, essentially, and how this region is currently not actually fully exploiting that potential. So we know that currently the labor force participation rate of young women in MENA is actually rather low, which means that we're leaving the potential of a large share of the young population to contribute to the economy unutilized. Now, there's several scenarios we tried to build here in this slide, and these show that actually closing the that labor force participation gap between young men and young women will lead to a huge increase in the utilization of human capital in this region. So what we've done here is we've built 3 scenarios in terms of how fast the gap in labor force participation will reduce between boys and girls. If we manage to reduce that gap, enormous potential is unlocked. A lot of human capital is actually unlocked. And the good news of this is that even in those countries that are already late, in the late dividend stage, it is still possible to actually unlock a demographic dividend by involving more young women into the labor force. So there is a gender dividend we can achieve as well. So there's a demographic dividend, there's a gender dividend, there's also a peace dividend. If we manage to move towards a resolution of some of the conflicts we see in this region, that will also unlock further economic growth. So in summary, we've showed that the MENA region will go through tremendous demographic changes in the next 30 years, both in terms of the size and the age structure of the population. We've showed that this opens up the opportunity for a demographic dividend, so we can really unlock a higher level of economic growth. And all countries in the region still have an opportunity to unlock that potential. For some countries it's getting late, but all countries still have that opportunity. We've also seen that peace and stability and inclusive economic and social policies and employment opportunities are the prerequisites to realize the demographic dividends. We've seen that the education sector will see an increase in the school-age population, particularly at the secondary level, and that needs to be anticipated. We've seen that the quality of education matters greatly to equip these young people for the changing economy. And we've also seen that unlocking the potential of young women by closing the gender gap in labor force participation and in employment will actually unlock a dividend all of its own. So the full report will be on the website in the next 2 weeks, and look forward to engaging with you on what this means for the policy the policy measures that actually need to be taken to really make sure that we exploit this opportunity we have together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur Van Diezen. Now we have Rania Al-Jazairi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rania Al-Jazairi, and I work for UNESCO. I'll be presenting to you today some of the policy recommendations that were generated from the 2030 report, but also from the webinar that took place a few days ago. But before that, I always like to start by a quote or quotes by youth. We just recently implemented an interregional project in ESCWA. It covered many countries in the region, and it was implemented in cooperation with the other 4 regional commissions. And I have these quotes that are quite significant and, okay, they've been modified. I think it's fine. I'll just quickly go through them. Mainly, youth stated that they have, there's very limited trust in us, and we are perceived as a threat rather than an asset. And mainly there's this lack of trust or sort of disconnect between youth and governments. And I think this is very important when we speak about policy recommendations now, to take into consideration that kind of environment. Before going through the recommendation in less than a minute, just to be in line with your time, 5 minutes, okay? Just in 1 minute, some of the challenges now for the region. This is by far a region that has its own challenges. I mean, when we speak about 11 out of the 22 countries are either conflict-stricken or have some sort of instability. This overall environment is definitely disabling. It doesn't enable youth, so conflict, instability, failure to establish good governance, overall high youth unemployment, the highest level at the world level, even for female, it doubles that of males. So these are not just indicators, they really reflect the reality on the ground. Unequal access to social services. Arthur mentioned education and health, but also we need to look at access in terms of who has access, who has the privilege to access. Is this an elitist system of education, the public versus the private? Also, during the implementation of the project, we had the youth themselves trying to identify some of these challenges. They speak of their own capabilities, the weak governance structures for NGOs themselves, and the issue of self-realization. How can they really escape from coercion, from patriarchy, the cultural challenges? So, I won't dwell much, I mean, and just, I had prepared some of the figures and statistics, but, you know, overall, despite some achievements in education and in health, we do have still 15 million under 5 mortality. I mean, the rate is quite high for the region, and by 2030, we do need around 100,000 health workers. So as Arthur said, it's access, quality, but also this link to the outcome of the education, the link to the market, the kind of skills that are needed to have the youth being absorbed in the market, how can they succeed at entrepreneurship and have access to credit, for example. The report focused mostly on social protection, not the sort of preventive or protective when it's, but more the transformative kind of social protection, the one that could really focus on productive sectors and try really to generate economic opportunities. Very briefly, my colleague mentioned some of the policies. I mean, in relation to participation, we have some of the laws for voting. I had prepared the table. 21 is the minimum age for voting, and in some countries for minimum candidacy age for some government position, it's 30 for most countries. So it's quite these policies that we need to tackle. Youth policies in general, we do have some governments that formulated youth policies, but we do notice some absence of coordination among institutions involved in providing youth with development opportunities. And we do notice that youth themselves haven't been able to really participate in the formulation of these youth policies. So the process hasn't been completely inclusive. Going straight to the policy recommendations, taking into account this or lack of enabling environment, if we want to call it, we do really have to look at reforms at 3 different levels. First, the level of redirecting the macro policies that regulate the social contract. So we're talking about citizens and government authorities. It's an overall macro, because it's not just about youth or women, or it's the overall environment. Then we talk about, or we discuss the sector-specific policies, whether it's health or education, in line with social justice principles, equity, equality, participation, of course, and human rights. Focusing on youth policies that interact with these above 2 levels, with a special emphasis on youth participation and broad-based partnerships. Now, the broad-based partnership, it has to be really quite holistic, looking at health and nutrition. As my colleague said, it's not just being well-nourished, but looking at protected, well-educated, protected from violence, all forms of violence, the workforce management, looking exactly at the number of youth that actually graduate, the market needs in each sector, that kind of planning, equity and access, the nature of disease to actually preempt for the future. Education for lifelong learning, looking at transformational investment in access and quality of education. Financing necessity investment, basically looking at public investment. Where is the money going? Where are the priorities? Are youth in the high priority agenda for the governments? So the priority, increasing revenue mobilization. We know the region, the governments in the region, there's quite a challenge in this area in terms of mobilizing the revenues. Taxation is an issue. For ESCWA, definitely we advocate direct progressive taxation and looking at the priority. Of course, overspending and militarization are some of the issues that are mentioned in several reports. Employment and decent jobs for all, so skills for school-to-work transition, reintegration for the unemployed, especially for a specific category, targeting demand for labor involving youth, plus, of course, employment generation. We look at inclusive economic growth. We really need to focus at the public sector because there's really saturation from the private sector. Saturation in the Arab countries in relation to the public sector, and to empower youth to enter or to create or to be quite active in entrepreneurship, we need to really ease the cumbersome procedures for business procedures. Protection for the most vulnerable, and again here when we speak about transformative social protection, we have some of these policy interventions looking at increasing access to microcredit for youth, tax incentive for businesses to actually hire more youth and adolescents to establish themselves as entrepreneurs, preferential market access, which is really encouraging the products or the businesses, everything that is really youth generated. So these are some of the main points for transformative or trying to really protect the most vulnerable and prompt for better economic participation. Engagement and participation, I mentioned some of the policies in relation to political participation, but there are also issues in relation to human rights education, education for peace. And finally, the point that Arthur mentioned, protection of young women from gender-based violence, whether we do consider child marriage to be one form of gender-based violence, and definitely in the context of conflict, this has been a main challenge has been increasing. So economic growth is not a necessary prerequisite, but it's by itself, it's not sufficient in generating employment and reducing poverty. So definitely we need to focus on higher productive jobs and macro fiscal policies that would connect fiscal policies to development aims by systematic investment in strategic sectors, technologies, and human development priorities. Also, primary, we need to reform personal and corporate income tax, choices in spending in money, and improving transparency overall, the rule of law, and better accountability. There's a need for a healthy private sector and demand-side intervention, so investing in skills that are quite needed for the market. Finally, women, there's a need for them to overcome these labor barriers. It's one of the lowest rates worldwide in terms of women economic participation in the region, less than 30%. And it's not only just about addressing discrimination in the labor market, because we know the human rights approach is holistic. So when we're discussing discrimination, it's discrimination at home, civil status law, family law, so that these women can actually, at the end, join the labor market. So it's the holistic approach. This disconnect between higher education and the participation of women, it's the Arab anomaly. It's quite known, unfortunately, last 20 years, huge substantive increase and improvement in health and education for women. They have the highest even better tertiary rate enrollment vis-a-vis men, but unfortunately this is not reflected in terms of economic participation and political representation.
I'm sorry,
I'm finished. This is the last slide, so just calling for a holistic approach. I just want to mention also the new channels of expression, because this was mentioned over and over. The increase of censoring youth in social media undermines their human rights overall, and we need to focus more on youth and peace and security initiatives. It's time to act now, as the report rightfully so highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rani Al-Ghizairi, First Social Affairs Officer, Social Justice Section, Social Development Division. Now, last but not least, from the Global and Regional Evidence on Adolescents and Youth, we have Muna Khalidi, Center for the Public Health Practice, IUB.
Okay, I'm sorry, there seems to be... hello, everyone. All the other logos seems to have gone missing. So this slide should have UNICEF, Save the Children, ILO, the EU, GAGE, and EUB, of course. Okay, let me start off by saying that I need to thank the Center for Public Health Practice and the entire team of the center at EUB, especially our young researcher, Mirvat, who was meticulous in collecting the additional data, Dr. Rima Afifi, who wasn't able to join us, and but was wonderful for bouncing ideas off of, and Aline Germani, who was my partner in crime. Okay, so to start off, you will notice that a lot of what we're going to be looking at actually connects quite well with what just came before us, which is what Prera, Arthur, and Rania said. So excuse the repetition, but maybe the repetition actually means that these are the issues we need to be looking at closely. So, all right, so what was the objective of this paper? The objective of this paper was to update the evidence documents that were generated last year at the Symposium of 2017 in order to be able to shed light on any emerging issues or what we call sub-issues and to see what has moved since the last symposium. Please bear in mind that the period we're talking about was November 2017 until July 2018. So it's quite a limited period of time. So what methodology did we use? We tried to follow a process similar to that was followed in 2017 in order to continue to look at the same things in the same way, so to ease comparability. We did some secondary research based on desk reviews of what has been recently published. And the main focus, again, was November 17 to July 18, although we tended to be a bit flexible if we found that something was interesting. Online research using the same key terms, and we added a few more, and documentation that we received from colleagues from within the steering committee. In addition, we did a quick review of the submissions to this present-day symposium by young researchers as well as by research on youth, and we carried out also a media scan of what has been published about youth, by youth, on youth issues, which I will briefly refer to later. What are the limitations of this paper? First, the time frame. As you can see, it's very limited, and by nature that limits the new evidence that can be generated in such a short time. The language, we pretty much focused on English with few Arabic reports that were sent to us. The definitions, and we will come to this over and over, the definition of what youth are, what children are, what adolescents are, what Arab is, what the region is, varied. There's diversity in the MENA region from من المحيط إلى الخليج can vary very, very much in terms of socioeconomic situation to geography, you have it. And one other limitation is that this report was actually compiled and put together by an older person, not by youth. So what did we find? To go, I'm trying to stay within the 15-minute limit. Okay, so with few exceptions, the type of material that we found remained the same. There were very few academic articles in peer-reviewed journals, and the majority was gray literature. Data on MENA adolescents and youth remains scarce. Not much has moved. Disaggregated data is also still scarce by age, by sex, by geographical distribution, by socioeconomic status.
again, we come back to the issue of the differing definitions of the region and the age cohorts, which complicate analysis and complicate comparability. Most of the data that came from programs was, and this is similar to lots of other development programs, it came in the form of information on output, not on outcome. And this remains a challenge for all of us in the development field. And there remained a distinct lack of involvement or limited involvement of adolescents and youth in the generation of data and information. So what else did we find? In terms of the issues, we found that most of the newly published documentation related to war, conflict, and in particular the Syrian crisis, not a big surprise. The interest in Syria and the crisis in Syria was not only about the war and actual conflict, but also extended to issues related to refugees and the displaced. Again, not a big surprise. Research on the Syrian conflict was being carried out by everyone. It's like, I mean, everyone. Academics, private institutions, NGO sector, UN sector, everybody is looking at Syria, and including the youth themselves. A particular specific area seems to have a few more results than others, which is emerging disabilities, again linked to wars and conflicts, with two particular areas, Syria and Gaza being studied. I mean, there is research now on them, or some publications showing some trends, and we are now, I mean, our expectation is that we will be seeing more disabilities emerging from Yemen as time progresses. We still don't have the data. Unemployment has been spoken about, and it will be spoken about again. It's just important to say that unemployment remains an area of a problematic area that's been referred to in the documentation that we found, and this is about two things. It's about the availability of opportunities and opportunities for decent employment and good quality work, as well as the preparedness of the youth for the jobs that do exist, or for the opportunities that do exist or are in the process or that we plan to create. Research on the socioeconomic and political determinants of youth well-being is beginning to come out. There's more research on poverty and interconnectedness and the multidisciplinary nature of the issue, which again ties into what our colleagues just said. There was one study that we found on the structures and capacities of youth organizations, actually specifically looking at how youth organizations are functioning and what is needed to support them more. There's some studies emerging on social media, both as a tool for information generation and dissemination, as well as a tool for misinformation generation or recruitment for extremism. And we have what we, for lack of a better terminology, the most marginalized of the marginalized remain invisible. So we're talking about things like, migrant workers, the extreme poverty, those in the most remote rural areas, they remain invisible in our data. And this is unfortunate.
Ms. Mona Al-Khulaidi, I'm very sorry, but I have to interrupt so that we can reach the youth researchers.
But I still have, I'm timing myself.
We're running out of time.
Who are the MENA youth? You've heard who the MENA youth is. Let's just focus on one thing, which is that the adolescents and the youth in MENA, for the most part, are demoralized. So between 34 and 85% of the youth have said that they feel that the region is going in the wrong direction. Not to belabor the point, but to say it again, it's context. Context drives a lot of what we're talking about, and the context in which our youth are living is grim, to say the least. We're talking about wars and conflicts and all that follows from that. We're talking about civil wars and the destruction as well to property, to physical structures, as well to mental and social fabric. We're talking about occupation, which persists in Palestine. We're talking about starvation and malnutrition and everything that follows from that. We're talking about diseases that exist and the re-emergence of health diseases that can cause that can be catastrophic. We're talking about persisting political repression, economic struggle, especially the lack of employment, and just a figure that can make us think, which is that it's projected that 28 million people, youth and adolescents, require humanitarian assistance in our region. So what are the challenges that face the MENA youth? There's inequity in access to services, to opportunities and skills, which we discussed, and this is a major problem that the youth refer to. It's across the region there are inequities, and within countries there's inequities. Poverty, there's been a reversal in the trend and is actually now on the rise, and the figures are frightening. 1 in 4 Arab children is acutely poor. Gender discrimination remains a fact. It's been discussed sufficiently. The educational system remains faltering, and more significantly is that the youth themselves are concerned about the quality of education that they are receiving. So it's not only facilities and technology and the curricula, it's also what they perceive. Unemployment and social exclusion remain high and have increased. Child labor is on the increase, and especially between amongst refugee populations, where the actual contribution of children as laborers is necessary for the families to survive. So it's not just because of lack of knowledge that people are not sending their children to school, and all of this ties in together. Migration, a lot of youth still aim to leave the region, still aim to migrate to get a better life. Violence is prevailing, and this is not only, as we just heard, not only wars and conflicts, but also interpersonal violence, intercommunity violence, gender-based violence. Health and physical well-being is a challenge, and we spoke about that, especially the issue of nutrition. And again, what Prerna said, which is we have a window of opportunity which we should be addressing. The disabled youth, and as we said, they're 1, marginalized, 2, underserved, and 3, on the increase. More challenges. Refugees and youth are have their own set of problems that are compounding the other issues. We have the other marginalized groups that we talked about, and they remain more socially excluded than others, and we need to make a point of addressing those. Disillusionment, disenfranchisement also remains with the political systems, and what was referred to as the lack of trust, and it's both ways. They lack trust in the government, and then they feel that the prevailing structures lack trust in them, and this feeds into a cycle. The risk of radicalization is still looming because the underlying causes still exist, and the engagement of youth remains, unfortunately, tokenistic. So this is what we found to be the challenges. Yet, and several people have referred to it, there is the youth that, from what we found in the reports, remain hopeful. This was revealed by participatory action research, and that the youth are ready and keen to engage. And there have been a number of adolescent and youth-led interventions that are being implemented, and there has been an increase in engagement through digital communication. So I'm going to, for the interest of time, so what works? Inclusion, self-explanatory. Include the youth. They need to be part of the process at all its stages. Youth-centered approaches. Yes, we cannot have youth programming without the youth being at the center, driving the entire process. that was my timer. Provide safe spaces for people to give their ideas, to share their ideas without being scared of repercussions, to be able to discuss, to engage, to be proven right or wrong. Otherwise, they cannot engage. Skills building and opportunities, obviously. We need to build a more symbiotic relationship between research and programs such that they feed into one another, the results of research feeding into programs and what we're finding on the ground feeding into and leading research questions.
Ms. Mona Al-Khulaidi, I'm very, very, very sorry.
I know.
We're running out of time.
1.5 minutes.
1 minute?
We need to pilot initiatives to make sure they work, address multiple needs at the same time, the intersectorality, which also ties back to context, and peer-to-peer approaches are key. So I think if you talk about positive drivers and negative drivers, they're pretty self-evident. So we'll just go to main recommendations. And here we've grouped the recommendations into 3 categories. First, as it pertains to strengthening evidence. We recommend that we need to standardize tools and methods in order to be able to generate comparable data and evidence in order to monitor where we stand. We need urgently to unify terminologies and definitions. We need to strengthen youth-led research and youth in terms of both setting the agenda and being part of the research and of the analysis of that research. And we need to support the access of youth to information and data, and we need to be creative about this. The recommendations that fall under demonstrating and scaling what works, or we need actions addressing youth priority issues, so we need to listen by engaging youth. We need to also listen to them and not just bring them in to then decide for ourselves. Youth participation is key, and it should start at the local level. We need to include the non-traditional marginalized groups. In terms of monitoring the progress of our of any programs, we call on partners to establish a system of tracking that goes on beyond the symposium. We call on partners to take an active role in pushing this agenda in their work and in streamlining it into their plans. And we call on everyone to strengthen the monitoring role of the Youth Regional Advisory Group. And before we move on to the youth presentations, we carried out a very quick analysis of the submissions that were received this year. So for the call for submissions, there was a call for abstracts, as everybody knows, for researchers between 10 and 24 years old. We received a total of 256 submissions were received, 35% of which came from young females. The submissions came from a variety of countries across the region. There were 4 categories: violence, education and employment, youth participatory action research, and a category called other. We assessed and these were assessed by various streams according to 7 criteria: how significant the issue was, the conceptualization of it, the methodology followed, the participation of youth, implications of what is being proposed, the quality of the research, and the ethical considerations. The results were not as well as one would have liked. Overall, the quality was found to be more low than high. The methods being used were found to be not very strong and were rarely described properly. The topics that were being presented were, for a large part, not relevant, found to be not relevant. The research, most of the research that was submitted was not yet implemented. It was proposals. The scalability, there was very little information to decide whether it was scalable. And in terms of ethics, that was rarely addressed in the proposals. A lot of this seems to have been, from people's analysis, a result of the the actual forms and the process that was followed, and the recommendation is to reassess the process and how people are asked to submit. And the analysis of the winning submissions showed there were a total of 22 winners, amongst which are video submissions. The majority fell between the ages of 21 and 24, with the youngest being 15 years old and the oldest 25. And you can see here the distribution by country and by gender. So most of the winners were, 60% were female. And this brings us to the end of this presentation. Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm really sorry.
Thank you so much, Mona Al-Khulaidi, Center for the Public Health Practice, AUB. Okay, we have now a small question and answer session. It's going to be like 3 minutes only because we're running out of the time. Okay, I have just like some notes, okay? If you have a question, just state your name and then the organization you are representing, and also like state the person you want to direct the question to. And remember, the session is about questions, not comments. So starting.
I'm Suad from UNICEF Libya. My question is to Mona. I wonder, no research is done on drugs?
Not that came up, no. Do you want to take all the questions and then we answer?
السلام عليكم. هشام من المغرب، ممثل عن الكشفية الحسنية المغربية. سؤالي لدكتور آرثر. في ظل التحولات الاقتصادية التي تتحول بشكل كبير من اقتصاد السوق إلى الاقتصاد المعرفة، الاقتصاد الاجتماعي والتضامني، ما هو التعليم الأنجع لتأهيل الشباب للانخراط في اقتصاد مجهول المعالم لحد الآن، أو بالأحرى ما هي المهارات المطلوب إدماجها في التعليم لتأهيل الشباب لهذا الاقتصاد المجهول مستقبلا؟ شكرا.
اوكي، عندنا سؤال وين؟
Sorry, this is Bakhtiar from Iraq UNICEF. So my question is about so for all the panelists, so the issues that you are raised in terms of the social dimension, economic dimension, and civic engagement, don't you think in terms of the programming, it will, if you end up to adopt these recommendations and findings, will lead to the stretching the mandate of the UN or UNICEF? Since findings that I mentioned, some of them is quite leads to the stretching the mandate of the United Nations or the UNICEF. Another question to Mr. Arthur. So how the political dynamic will affect the programming? Like last year, like this day in Kurdistan, in the Iraq, the people of the North Iraq hold a referendum. So how this kind of the political change leads to the change in the modality of the social cohesion that we have rethinking about? Thanks.
Okay, I think we will have just one more question. Okay. We'll end up.
Thank you to the presenter. My input is related to Arthur. So thank you so much. I want to say that if you look at the emergency countries, that we notice that, for example, Syria, the young population is reduced from this year, from last year. It's 30 this year, while if you compare it with last year indicators, it's 30% of total population. But if you look specific at the age brackets, you can see that we are losing some of the age brackets, especially when it's come to 18 and 19 years old, and men specifically for different reasons. And if you look at the demographic even change in the same country, you can look even the diversity among governorate and among even the family structure. So my question is how we can address that in your report, and specific what the strategy can we use to address this and bridge this gap in our interventions. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we're going to the panelists so that they can answer the questions. Please make it so brief, like we have like 2 minutes or like 1 minute.
Half a minute. Okay, so to get to the question of drugs, I just remind you that this was a search that we did for recent publications, November to July, and in this search this didn't come up. If you have anything on that is recent, then we will be happy to update the report.
I just want to address the question about social cohesion. I think some of the challenges that were mentioned in some of the recent reports on youth for the Arab region relates to the issue of the identity, and it's not something just youth-related. I think it's a challenge for the entire region. But for youth specifically, when they were asked in these studies, how do they perceive themselves? What's the identity? This was really a challenge. And of course, in programming, this would be reflected maybe in the type of education, the nature of education, the curriculums that we would like to, see a reform in this area to try to prompt more this self of identity, citizenship, and this would ipso facto reflect on social cohesion and sort of better inclusion for everyone. For the programming for the UN, I'm sure Arthur will address this, but in general also there should be the focus on these recommendations, translation into the different programs of the UN, and better coordination within the UN system, and trying to make this as efficiently as possible to have an impact on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Literally just a couple of words about each of these questions, which are brilliant questions. First of all, to the colleague from Morocco who was asking, okay, there are so many changes. What skills do we actually need to give young people in order to be successful in the labor market? The issue is that absolutely there is so much change. There's so much technological change and so much change in the labor market that many of the jobs of the future have not even yet been defined. So therefore, one set of skills that is absolutely critical to give to young people are life skills, right? It's not about a specific technical skill on how to do a particular job. It's much more broadly on life skills. And I'll allow, I'm sure, education colleagues in the room will, over the coffee break, speak in much more detail about that. Finances, will our finances be stretched in the UN? Let's be very honest. What the UN brings in terms of solutions and in terms of financial resources is minute. The solutions have to be homegrown and have to be financed domestically. The policy measures that need to be taken in order to realize demographic dividend have to be financed from domestic resources. And this is where some of the comments that Rania made around how to grow that fiscal space, for example, through much more progressive taxation, are so important. And then finally, just to come back to the question we had around Syria and the very specific demographic changes and challenges there. Of course, this report is based on the projections from the United Nations Population Division, which can take account of the broad changes in the population, but of course do not take into account the very specific circumstances of conflict, for example, or migration that happens in the context of Syria. So at the country level, where you have access to much more evidence, you need to unpack that much more in much more detail. I'll stop there.
Maybe I can just add then one word on the stretching of the organizations, and I think maybe just to note that I think it's very much aligned with a global orientation towards and this move towards young people. And just to signal this with one example, which was yesterday at the UN General Assembly, UNICEF, along with a number of partners, launched Generation Unlimited, a new partnership, looking at exactly that, trying to reorient towards this opportunity for young people. So very much, I think, squarely within the mandate now and of all the UN agencies together.
Thank you so much. عن جد بالفعل كان جلسة كتير مهمة، ونحن كشباب هيدي المعلومات عرفناها عن حالنا ونحن ما بنعرفها من قبل، فشكرا كتير لكم. وهلأ بدنا ننتقل للجلسة التالية، جلسة الأبحاث والحلول يلي وضعوها الشباب. ولحتى ننتقل لهيدي الجلسة بدي أرجع أدعي بلقيس وبشار لحتى يتوجهوا لهون يكونوا هن عم يسروا هيدي الجلسة.
مرحبا. القسم الثاني راح يكون بعنوان هو الباحثون الشباب وصانعو الحلول. بمنطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا تعتبر من أكثر المناطق في العالم التي تحتوي على شباب، ومع ذلك هؤلاء الشباب لا يشاركوا في صنع فرصهم في صنع الحلول هي معدومة أو قليلة جدا. من خلال هذه الندوة التي هي ندوة الأدلة سيتمكنون الشباب من التخطيط والتنفيذ للحلول والمشاكل التي من تخطيط وتنفيذ حلول المشاكل التي تواجههم.
First of all, I'd like to thank the UN NGO group for giving us the opportunity to be part of the selection criteria and be part of each step in selecting people, and even letting us to select them according to our previous experience. And now it's a real pleasure to invite my friends and researchers to our first panel. So please, the first panelist from about education to employment, please come to the stage, please. Okay. They are عماد الدين المصري, شروق نعيمات, ميس فواز for the first panel, and please all the panelists from all the panels come to the stage. Everyone. جميع اللي رح يحكوا بهاي الجلسة هلا. عربي إنجليزي. كرسيين. Is everyone here? Okay. First of all, we're going to start with عماد الدين المصري.
صباح الخير. عماد الدين المصري من سوريا. بداية باسمي باسم زملائي الباحثين وصانعي الحلول، إنه من دواعي الفخر والسعادة أن نكون أمام حضراتكم لنعرض أمامكم نتائج أعمالنا البحثية وحلولنا المقترحة أمام حضراتكم في هذه الفرصة النوعية حقيقة. لذلك نشكركم لحضوركم واهتمامكم ومتطلعين لآرائكم ومقترحاتكم وتطويراتكم. خلال التقسيم الهيكلي لمحاضرتنا اليوم أو للندوة الملقاة أمامكم إن شاء الله، القسم الأول حيكون متعلق بالانتقال من التعليم إلى العمل. جمعنا فيها 3 أبحاث من 3 دول، وهذه الأبحاث كانت متنوعة ومقسمة على شرائح عمرية متعلقة بالانتقال من التعليم إلى العمل، حيث كان هناك بحث يتناول الشريحة العمرية الصغرى الأطفال، وهناك بحث يتناول الشريحة العمرية الأكبر من الأطفال وهم اليافعين في مرحلة الثانوي، في مرحلة الدراسة الثانوية، وهناك البحث الثالث الذي يتناول الانتقال من التعليم إلى العمل في المرحلة الجامعية. وسنبدأ بهذا التسلسل العمري بحثاً وراء بحث، وسنبدأ مع زميلتي الأنسة شروق بالبحث الأول الذي يتناول الشريحة العمرية الأصغر. تفضلي أنسة شروق. أشكركم.
يعطيكم العافية. شكرا عماد الدين. أنا شروق نعيمات، 23 سنة، من الأردن، مهندسة معمارية. في موضوع تسهيل الانتقال من التعليم للعمل، وخصوصا انه بدنا نحكي انه لكل عملة وجهين، فتناول البحث عندي موضوع الانتقال السلبي من التعليم إلى العمل، اللي هي مشكلة التسرب من المدارس، الانخراط في بيئات العمل الخطرة للأطفال، وخصوصا الانخراط في المهن الخطرة تحت بند البحث رح يكون اليافعين وتحدي التعليم. عمل الأطفال هي من أهم المشاكل اللي بحاجة لتسليط الضوء، هي مشكلة مش محصورة على الصعيد المحلي فقط، هي تمس المنطقة العربية ككل. بدأنا بالعمل كفريق مكون من 23 شاب وشابة في جامعة البلقاء التطبيقية الأردن في البلقاء بالبحث الإجرائي التشاركي لدراسة هاي القضية. فكان عندنا التحليل قائم على 3 مستويات. في عندنا التحليل على المستوى القانوني، التحليل على المستوى الاقتصادي، والتحليل على المستوى التعليمي. من نتائج هذا البحث المهمة اللي راح أعمل عليها تسليط ضوء سريع، إن عمل الأطفال في هاي الفترة العمرية يساهم بشكل بسيط بشكل ملحوظ إنه فقدان الشباب العاطل عن العمل فرصة الحصول على عمل. أيضاً صاحب العمل لا يعتبر متضرر من العقوبة المترتبة عليه قانونياً، لأن الطفل العامل لا يندرج ضمن الضمان الاجتماعي، التأمين الصحي، حتى الأجر الذي يتقاضاه الطفل هو أدنى من الحد الأدنى للأجور الموضح في قانون العمل الأردني. صاحب العمل قادر على تغطية الغرامة المالية المترتبة عليه كعقوبة ب3 أضعاف في يوم عمل واحد لهذا الطفل. إذن توصلنا إلى أن العقوبة القانونية غير رادعة لحل هذه المشكلة. Don't reinvent the wheel هو القاعدة الأساسية اللي إحنا انطلقنا منها لحتى نغطي هاي القضية ونطلع بنتائج إيجابية. فتوجهنا لنعمل على شراكات مع المؤسسات العاملة على هذه القضية. فكان الشريك الاستراتيجي لنا منظمة العمل الدولية فرع الأردن في برنامج نحو أردن خالي من عمل الأطفال، والمؤسسات الإعلامية الوطنية، بالإضافة لمؤسسة نهر الأردن، وزارة العمل، ولجنة العمل والعمال في مجلس النواب الأردني، ومجلس النقابات العمالية في الأردن. هناك كان العديد من الصعوبات التي واجهناها، وأهمها مشكلة التسرب من المدارس لم تتوقف عند هذا الحد. ليست فقط أطفال لا يذهبون إلى مدارسهم، وإنما انفتحت لقضايا أكبر وذات أهمية: عمل الأطفال في بيئات العمل الخطرة، التسول المنظم، والإتجار بالبشر. هاي نسبة الأطفال العاملين حسب الإحصاءات التي اندرجت في إحصائية عام 2016 بعد غياب إحصائي من عام 2007 69,991 طفل عامل، 44,917 منهم هم عاملين في المهن الخطرة. وهاي النسبة كانت على دراسة أجريت مؤخراً بالشراكة مع منظمة العمل الدولية ومركز الدراسات الاستراتيجية في الجامعة الأردنية. بالنسبة لدراسة القضية وتسليط الضوء عليها هو نصف الطريق، النصف الآخر هو صناعة الحلول. وكشباب ونحن مآمنين بدورنا إنه إحنا قادرين نكون جزء من حل هاي القضية، كنا بنشتغل على الحلول، والحل كان عنا المناصرة وحملات المدافعة لحتى ندخل في الناحية القانونية ويكون القانون بصفنا وإحنا عم نسلط هاي الجهود اللي عنا إياها. فكان حملة أطفال مش حملة أثقال، Child not weight holders، هو عنوان حملة المدافعة اللي أطلقناها لحتى إحنا نحاول تعديل وتفعيل بعض النصوص القانونية في قانون العمل الأردني. فعملنا على تغليظ بدأنا بالعمل على الصعيد القانوني في المادة 77 لتغليظ العقوبة على صاحب العمل. من المواضيع أو المجاوزات الأخلاقية كشباب كنا عم نبحث عن موضوع الحبس لصاحب العمل لمدة لا تقل عن 3 أشهر، لكن المجاوزة الأخلاقية إنه إحنا عم نأثر على حقوق الإنسان في هاي الخانة ونأثر على كرامته وأمنه. توصلنا لأنه بالتعاون مع مجموعة من المحامين الناشطين في هذا المجال لصياغة تغليظ العقوبة على صاحب العمل بإغلاق المنشأة حتى يتضرر صاحب المنشأة مادياً، وما نتجه إحنا إلى موضوع المجاوزات الأخلاقية. من أهم الحلول الأخرى اللي عملناها تعديل المادة 77، تفعيل المادة 74، ومناقشة موضوع المادة 76 في السلامة والصحة المهنية. من الأمور الأخرى اللي اشتغلنا عليها جلسات توعوية، وفي تدريب كان نشتغل عليه سكريم Support Child Rights Through Art, Media and Education from the ILO office in Jordan. هذا التدريب خلانا نكون قادرين على إنه إحنا نأخذ الأطفال العاملين في المهن الخطرة، نتواصل معهم ونكون قادرين على إنه إحنا نبرز مواهبهم ونوفر لهم فرص عمل آمنة، بحيث إنهم هم عم يعملوا بفرص عمل آمنة بالمواهب اللي بيمتلكوها، ونكون جزء من حل هاي المشكلة. كان في عنا إطلاق اليوم الوطني لعمل الأطفال، لوقف عمل الأطفال في الأردن، بالتعاون مع وزارة العمل الأردنية والمنظمات والحقوقية في الأردن بتنظيم من منظمة العمل الدولية. أهم شيء بعد المرور سريعا على أهم الإنجازات اللي مرت هو الإيمان بالقضية. إذا كنت أنت ما عم تؤمن بهاي القضية، أنت ما رح تكون جزء فعال من حلها. والشباب هم الثروة الحقيقية لمنطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. العناية بهم والاستثمار بطاقاتهم هو الخيار الأمثل لحتى يكونوا هم المورد الأساسي لهاي الدول في ظل غياب الموارد الاقتصادية الملموسة وغيرها. ممكن أختم في جملة هي كانت من الدافع الأساسي للشغل عنا، هي كانت جملة لأحد المؤسسات العاملة في القطاع الشبابي طمي لتنمية الموارد الشبابية: جيل شبابي منتج لبدائله. يعطيكم ألف عافية.
Now we're moving on to Mays الفواز.
مرحبا، أنا ميسي زعاترة من الأردن. حابب أعرض لكم هذا الفيديو قبل ما أبلش عرضي.
بس ممكن تستمر؟ تمام اوكي شكرا. تستمر لأن ما في خط قبل أي شيء. ما في خط ما في ممكن تشرح. اوكي ممكن اوكي بس ممكن تبدأي مع التقديم، وممكن إيمان يمشي أولا وبعدين أنت. أنا أطلع الفيديو. اوكي تمام.
اوكي بترككم مع زميلي عماد وبرجع لكم كمان شوي.
عماد again. اوكي لا هي تبع. اوكي wait. Oh my god. One second please. اسمي عماد الدين، أنا من سوريا، عمري 23 سنة. أنا بدرس اقتصاد، متخصص في الإحصاء التطبيقي وتحليل البيانات. عملت في بحثي على الباحثين عن العمل والداخلين إلى سوق العمل بالمرحلة الجامعية، الطلاب الجامعيين المنتقلين إلى سوق العمل، وما هي العقبات التي تواجههم وأين يتجهون. هناك فجوة لا تخفى على أحد بين التعليم والعمل. العمل له متطلبات التعليم لا يحققها، فهناك فجوة ثابتة نعلمها محققة. ليست المشكلة بقلة الأبحاث عن هذه الفجوة، هناك العديد من الأبحاث التي درست هذه الفجوة وأصدرت مؤشرات ووصلت إلى نتائج حول ما هي المطلوب الأكثر من المهارات، ما هي الشواغر الأكثر تكرارا. ولكن ما عملت عليه في هذا البحث ليس بجانب الشركات، بل كان بجانب الباحثين عن العمل. أين يتوجهون؟ دائما تسأل الشركات ماذا تريد، ولكن لا أحد يسأل الشباب أين يتوجهون. لذلك كان البحث يتناول شقين: الباحث عن العمل وتوجهات لطلب فرص العمل، لأن العمل بالنهاية هو عرض وطلب. هناك شاغر معروض من قبل الشركة، وهناك فرصة وظيفية مطلوبة من قبل الباحث عن العمل، فهي عرض وطلب. وهناك علينا أن نسعى إلى تحقيق توازن بين المطلوب والمعروض. لذلك في البحث توصلنا بالنتائج كما سنصل إليها إلى النسب المئوية للتوجهات الشباب. أين يتوجه الشباب؟ ما هي المناصب أو الأعمال التي يميلون إليها بنسب أعلى؟ إضافة إلى ما هي التخصصات الجامعية الأعلى نسبة، الأعلى وجودا، الأكثر تكرارا. في النهاية إذا كان لدينا شواغر ولكن ليس لدينا متخصصين في العمل بهذه الشواغر، إذا لدينا مشكلة. ولكن هناك أمر آخر وهو الذي سلطنا عليه الضوء، لدينا نسب عالية من اختصاصات معينة، إذا نحن بحاجة إلى خلق شواغر لهذه الاختصاصات. هذه الأمور اللي فعلا ضوينا عليها في هذا البحث. أيضا شمل البحث استبيانات واستطلاعات رأي للتوجهات الاستثمارية، لتوجهات رؤوس الأموال، من خلال متابعة ملتقيات استثمارية وملتقيات رجال أعمال ومعارض فرص عمل. توصلنا إلى نتائج من خلال نسب مئوية وتكرارات للتوجهات الاستثمارية في القطاعات الأكثر طلباً. ما هي القطاعات التي يميل المستثمرين إلى العمل بها، فبالتالي فتح وخلق فرص عمل جديدة، وهي التي سنستعرضها أولاً بأول. Okay, we don't have presentation, so لما بيصير إن شاء الله جاهز نصير نشتغل عليه. I don't wait the presentation. We will. سنستعرض السلايدات في نهاية الكلام، ولكن حتى لا ننقطع ونظل مستمرين. شخصيا أنا لا أحتاج لبرزنتيشن، أنا الباحث وأؤمن بكل كلمة وأعرف كل نتيجة حقيقة. طيب، عملنا على ثلاثة معارض فرص عمل وملتقيين استثماريين. كانت العينة تتجاوز 3000 مفردة و80 رجل أعمال وأكثر من 75 شركة. بعد غربلة هذه البيانات وتدقيقها واستثناء الميسنج فاليو أو القيم المفقودة منها، كان صافي العينة 1500 مفردة من الطلبة الجامعيين المقسمين إلى ذكور وإناث وفق فئات عمرية كإحصاءات وصفية كتوصيف لعينة الدراسة. خلصت الدراسة إلى نتائج أساسية ومهمة، وهي الوظائف التي يميل إليها الباحثين عن العمل والذي يتجهون إليها كانت الوظائف الإدارية. كانت الوظائف الإدارية بنسبة I will use this paper to imagine، يعني نتخيل مع بعض الوضع. العمود the red line كان هو عبارة عن التوجهات لطالبي العمل، وكانت النسبة الأكبر للأعمال الإدارية بنسبة 56%. 56% من الشباب الباحثين عن العمل يتوجهون نحو الأعمال الإدارية. طيب، فهذه كان المؤشر الأول. تلا هذا التوجهات بقطاع الموارد البشرية والسوشيال ميديا والتسويق. الشباب الباحثين عن العمل يتوجهون إلى هذه الشواغر: أعمال إدارية، سوشيال ميديا، موارد بشرية وتسويق. بينما كانت النسب المئوية لاستطلاعات آراء المستثمرين تميل إلى أن النسبة الأكبر من المستثمرين يتجهون نحو الصناعة بنسبة 33%، حيث كان التوجه الأكبر نحو القطاعات الصناعية بنسبة 33%. الشباب يتجهون نحو الأعمال الإدارية والسوشيال ميديا، المستثمرون يتوجهون نحو الصناعة. فحقيقة خلصنا إلى أن هناك اتجاهين متعارضين ما عم يتوافقوا، ما عم يتم بيناتهم توافق، وربما في حال وسعنا هذا البحث نصل إلى حقيقة أن هذا هو سبب الفجوة. هناك اتجاهين مختلفين ما عم يتم التنسيق بيناتهم. النقطة الثالثة أو التوجه الثالث اللي فعلا حصلنا عليه النسبة الأكبر للتخصصات الجامعية الموجودة، حيث أن النسبة الأعلى كانت للهندسة وفروعها. الهندسات هي النسبة الأعلى وجوداً بين فئة الشباب من حيث الاختصاصات. أوكي. الهندسات بفروعها، وتلاها الاقتصاد والإدارة أيضاً بتخصصاتها وفروعها. فسوق العمل يحوي شواغر معظمها وفق الشريحة المدروسة كانت في مجال الصناعة، ولكن الباحثين عن العمل يتوجهون نحو الأعمال الإدارية، والتخصصات الأعلى نسبة الموجودة هي التخصصات الهندسية. هذا التي خلصنا له فعليا من توصيف لواقع الشريحة المدروسة أو السوق المستهدف أو المدروس ضمن الدراسة. حقيقة I'm sorry about presentation. بينما يجهز أنهيت كلامي، أنهيت الاستعراض السريع للنتائج. سيكون هناك معرض وسأكون واقف أمام البحث بشكل تفصيلي للإجابة على أسئلتكم واستفساراتكم، ولكن الآن أريد أن أسمع منكم فيدباك وأسئلة واستفسارات عن النقاط التي عرضتها سريعا، التوجهات للمستثمرين، التخصصات الموجودة، والتوجهات للباحثين عن العمل. شكرا. أي سؤال؟ Any question?
اوكي تمام. اوكي هلا شو اسمه الباحث المنقذ للحياة. شكرا عبد الرحمن، تفضل.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's a very nice opportunity to have, and I will make this as fast as possible due to the time restrictions. So my story began when we saw a colleague in our Faculty of Medicine, Mansour University. He fainted out, and basically nobody came to help him. As students, we just sat there and watching, being able to do nothing. I started wondering, what is this? Is this right? I think it's very wrong for medical students to be able to do nothing. This is like their profession. They're supposed to know how to act on the spot, how to do first aid. So yeah, this was our research idea at our student organization. We started to measure the level of basic life support knowledge in the medical students in the faculty, and so there was a lot of very interesting data, like a very small number of students had very good BLS knowledge. About 50% of the students scored very low scores, okay? And there were very interesting male to female differences as well. Like over the region, males were generally worse at BLS than females, but in Egypt, it was actually the other way around. Also, being a clinical student meant that clinical students in general were better at BLS, okay? And yeah, that's basically the data. I mean, the presentation's in there, so yeah. Anyways. Our colleagues at the student organization thought that they need to work on a solution. So there are a lot of medical students, and these students need to learn how to do BLS. They need to practice how to do BLS, okay? And also, as BLS is such an important skill to have. I mean, lots of people nowadays die because of ischemic heart disease and because of traffic accidents. It's the leading causes of mortality worldwide and in the MENA region as well, okay? So we wanted to teach a lot of people how to do BLS. We wanted to teach as well medical students to do BLS perfectly. And also we wanted to make them practice it so that we just don't teach them something, they forget it, and then all the effort goes in vain. That was our thought process, basically. So we collaborated with the Egyptian Resuscitation Council, okay? And we have made this small project where we gave an instructor course to 25 carefully selected medical students in our faculty, and then have arranged this so that these students gave across the nation some first aid courses to different age groups, okay? So right now, we have trained about 540 youth, and across 18 BLS courses performed by our instructors. Our program is still in its very early stages, and we're looking forward to reach a larger amount of people, so that we can spread this very important skill and implement the idea that prevention is better than cure. If you have any questions, I can listen. Thank you.
شكرا عبد الرحمن. ننتقل الآن إلى بنان.
مرحبا، بنان من الأردن، عمري 15 سنة. عنوان البحث اللي عملته دراسة عن تفشي التدخين وتياراته بين شباب وفتيات الأردن. الدافع أو السبب اللي خلاني أقوم بهذا البحث هو تعرضي للتدخين القسري بشكل مستمر من أقاربي والبيئة المحيطة. مش بس أنا كمان بتعرض للتدخين القسري، في كتير أشخاص غيري بتعرضوا له وخاصة الأطفال. إضافة لهذا الإشي، رؤيتي للضرر النفسي والصحي المنتظم على الشباب واليافعين بسبب قيامهم بالتدخين. نوع البحث من الأبحاث، البحث اللي قمت فيه كان بحث نوعي بيرتكز على استكشاف الخبرات والسلوك ودراسة عمق الظاهرة، وكانت بياناته مفصلة ومفسرة. الفئة اللي قمت بالبحث معها كانت فئة يافعين وشباب، ذكور وإناث طبعاً. ومن بعد ما طبقت جميع الأدوات المطلوبة، ظهرت مجموعة من البيانات، من خلالها استنتجت مجموعة من النتائج، منها أسباب تدخين الذكور. أسباب تدخين الذكور كسبب واحد أذكر إنه الذكور بيقوموا بالتدخين لتحقيق الذات والشعور بالحرية. أما أسباب تدخين الإناث فالإناث بدخنوا حتى يشعر بالحرية المعطاة للذكور. وفي كمان أسباب مشتركة بين الذكور والإناث: حب التجربة والاستطلاع، الجهل وقلة الوعي، وغياب القدوة الحسنة عنهم، إضافة لتقليد الأعمى. هذا بالنسبة للنتائج. في مجموعة من الاقتراحات، كاقتراح أذكر اقتراح واحد منها هو الحد من التدخين بالأماكن العامة والعمل من خلال تطبيق سياسات وطرق ممنهجة. هذا الشيء رح يساهم بتقليل مستوى التدخين بالنسبة للأشخاص المدخنين، وبالتالي رح يساعدهم على الإقلاع عن التدخين. شكراً.
نشكر فريق ممثلي اللايف سيفينج. ننتقل الآن إلى ممثلي مجموعة العنف والسلام. نبدأ من ملاك ديب من سوريا.
نعم متحدث. نعم.
بهاء، يلا نبدأ مع بهاء.
هقدم على الاثنين. هقدم الاثنين. نعم. هيك قررتوا أي شيء. بس في برزنتيشن رايت؟
أيوه. بس
في هون. أي سلايد أي شيء.
ممكن ابدا بتبعي بعدين ارجع له.
هذا؟
اوكي من عندهم. من عندهم. ايوه تمام 100%. Good morning everyone. I'm going to present two research actually from the section of violence and peace building. The first research is about the prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder among children in Syria after 7 years of war. My name is Baha. I have a DDS. It's actually a doctor in dental surgery, but it's just a hobby. So what is PTSD? PTSD is a mental disorder that can affect everyone at any age, especially children, and can have a traumatic consequences on his or her lifestyle for many years. Okay, it can affect the lifestyle of for learning, creating new friends, making new friends, and even the social intelligence of the child. In Syria, during the years of war, and no one actually give much attention for mental disorders or mental illness or this kind of problems. So there's no psychological first aid, so there's no psychological support for anyone who had mental problems, and that's why we're focusing on this issue right here. We used a cross-sectional study methodology. Actually, I'm going to present two main results from two different research we were working on the same PTSD problem. This is a map of Syria. The red zones are the government who had the high amount of war, actually, or armed conflict, and it shows like higher percent of PTSD or anyone who may develop PTSD, PTSD in the future. And because there's no time, it's a color represented, so we can discuss it later in the gallery. But the main result is in Damascus city, we get it into deeply, actually, and studied the relation between PTSD and educational level among children in schools. It was a very large study for the largest sample size on this topic. And actually, also the red zones had the highest level of PTSD, and the middle of the city is the green zones, and the orange zone had the lower level of PTSD because, you know, the red zones, there was more armed conflict. 46% of children had PTSD, and we used Davidson scale, which is the most detailed PTSD scale that can study the PTSD on children. 46% is a very high percentage, and normally it's 8 to 10% around the world. The higher level of PTSD, the lower level of educational level. It may have two roads of explanation. Students who have higher level of PTSD can't learn quite like the other student, so they will stay behind the other students, and that will cause also more PTSD. They will be refused from the class. And it's strongly correlated with, there's a strong, significant relation improved by inferential statistics between the educational level and PTSD. There's no time to get deeply into the result. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer it in the gallery. But before I leave you, I will present the work of my friend, Malak, which worked on other research in the same topic, which is the behavior disorders among children and adolescents. A large percent of children had a child abuse or like an event can develop a behavior disorder. And more than 60% of this behavior or child abusing they had it into a safe place, like their home, their school, and there's no such attention for this child abusing or behavioral disorders. Actually, that is the main finding and the main result of this study. We can get deeply into this discussion in the gallery, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Baha. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone of the panelists have anything to add? Yes, please.
Hi all, this is Ola Al-Akbari. I'm coming from Yemen. Actually, I'm gonna speak in Arabic because they say Yemen is the original land for Arabic language. مرحبا، أنا علا الأغبري من اليمن. بحثي أنا طبعا مؤسسة لمؤسسة مدنية اسمها شباب سبأ. مؤسسة شباب سبأ تهتم بالتنمية وبناء السلام. بحثي يتعلق بدور المبادرات الشبابية في اليمن في بناء السلام. إيش كان دافعي لعمل هذا البحث؟ طبعا دافعي لعمل البحث إنه كثير من الشباب اليمني، وخاصة يعني 57% من الشباب يمثلون الفئة العمرية في اليمن. لذلك حبيت أن أسلط هذا البحث على جهودهم في بناء السلام. طبعا أنا عارفة أنه الوقت ضيق، لذلك بختصر بقدر الإمكان. المشكلة أنه أنا طبعا منهجية البحث كانت أنه اخترت 25 مبادرة شبابية حول اليمن، كانت من 5 مناطق فيها صراع، اللي هي تعز، صنعاء، المكلا، صنعاء، عدن. اعتمدت في جمع البيانات على الأدوات المكتبية وكمان المقابلات الميدانية. كانت الصعوبات إنه أول شيء البحث كان إيش هو دور المبادرات الشبابية، إيش هي الصعوبات أو ما هي الصعوبات التي يجدها الشباب أثناء قيامهم ببرامج وأنشطة تتعلق في بناء السلام. فكانت الصعوبات والمعوقات هي أولاً إنه موضوع السلام في اليمن إنه من الصعب جداً إنه كمبادرة شبابية تنزل الميدان وتقول أنا بشتغل في بناء السلام، لأنه أطراف الصراع في اليمن يعتبروا مفردة أو مصطلح السلام من المصطلحات الذي تعني أنه إحنا بنخنع أو بننذل عشان نصالح الطرف الآخر. لذلك في معظم الأحيان حينما يأتي أحد السلطات وإحنا نقوم بمبادرة تتعلق في بناء السلام، فإحنا ما نقولش إحنا نشتغل في بناء السلام بقدر ما نقول إحنا نعمل تدريب في مهارات حل النزاع مثلا، نغير المصطلح يعني. كمان من الصعوبات والمعوقات إنه ما فيش دراسات أو مراجع حول موضوع بناء السلام باللغة العربية. أعتقد إحنا في الشرق الأوسط نمتلك الكثير والكثير من الصراعات، لكن لا نمتلك الكثير من الأدلة في موضوع بناء السلام. كمان ما فيش خبراء أو لا يوجد خبراء وخبيرات محليين في هذا المجال. كمان وجود مصادر التمويل من المنظمات الدولية تكاد تكون شبه منعدمة في جانب بناء السلام، لأنه معظم المانحين والمنظمات يتجهون إلى برامج الإغاثة الإنسانية. أيضا يكون هناك زيادة في الأسعار وغلاء المعيشة، يعني الشباب في اليمن يحاولون جاهدين بأن يكونوا جزء من عملية بناء السلام، لكن للأسف أحيانا بسبب غلاء المعيشة، بسبب غلاء مصروفات المواصلات، يضطر الشباب أن ينحادوا عن العمل التطوعي ويبقون في البيوت. كمان إنه أحيانا حينما تذهب مبادرة شبابية إلى أحد المنظمات الدولية يكون رد المنظمات الدولية أو المانحين إنه أنتم كمبادرة ليس لكم أي إطار قانوني، لذلك لا يكون هناك أي دعم للمبادرات. هذه من الصعوبات. طبعا كمان صعوبات السفر، إنه مثلا أنا والعزيزة نسمة اللي هي المودريتور للجلسة اليوم من الشباب، إحنا الاثنين الوحيدات اللي جينا من اليمن، فكان أيضا من الصعوبات إنه إحنا نوصل إلى لبنان. يعني 23 ساعة كانت سفر عن طريق البر من العاصمة إلى الجنوب، والنقاط الأمنية كانت يعني أكثر من 20 نقطة، وكان أكثر النقاط الأمنية يعني تطالبنا بالنزول من الباص لأنه إحنا ما فيش عندنا محرم. المحرم طبعا هو الرجل أو الأخ أو الزوج اللي لازم يكون مع المسافرة كونها امرأة. تعرضنا لكثير من الصعوبات. هذه أيضا تعتبر من المعيقات، إنه إحنا كشباب يمني أو كمبادرين شباب نعمل على إيصال صوتنا إلى العالم، يعني عشان إنه هناك في شباب في اليمن يعملون جاهدين في موضوع بناء السلام، لكن ما فيش أي استجابة. المنظمات الدولية قلة ما تهتم بهذا الموضوع، المانحين أيضا، الحكومات هي سبب في الإعاقة. عشان أنا عارفة أنه جون بيزعل مني إذا طولت. فالنتائج والتوصيات، أنا أتمنى أنه يعني الحكومات، سواء إحنا في اليمن طبعا عندنا حكومتين، حكومة في الشمال وحكومة في الجنوب، فأنتوا وإحنا مسافرين لازم نمر على نقاط على الشمال ونقاط على الجنوب. فأنا أتمنى إنه الحكومتين أو السلطتين في اليمن تسهل موضوع عمل المبادرات الشبابية في اليمن. كمان المنظمات المحلية، أنا أتمنى يعني في المنظمات المحلية إنه يعملوا على بناء برامج مش تتناسب مع آراء المنظمات الدولية والمانحين بقدر ما تتناسب مع الأرض أو احتياجاتنا إحنا. يعني إذا جاء واحدة من منظمات الأمم المتحدة بتشتغل في جانب الفيدرالية، وإحنا أصلا في موضوع صراع، المفروض نعمل في مواضيع القيادة ومواضيع حل الصراع أفضل ما نروح إلى مواضيع لا تحتاجها الأرض اليمنية. كمان المنظمات الدولية، أنا أتمنى يعني أنه في زياراتي الأخيرة قبل ما أتي إلى لبنان صراحة زرت أكثر من منظمة دولية عشان أحصل على تمويل لتنفيذ مشاريع تهتم بها مؤسستنا مؤسسة شباب سبا، حتى نعمل على تمكين وبناء قدرات الشباب. لكن للأسف كان أغلب الكوردينيتورز أو المنسقين اللي في المنظمات الدولية في اليمن كان رأيهم شبه موحد، إنه إحنا نهتم كثيراً بالمساعدات الإنسانية، بتوزيع الغذاء، بتوزيع مواد الإيواء. هذا يجعلنا في زاوية ضيقة، إنه إحنا كشباب محتاجين بناء قدرات، محتاجين نشتغل أكثر على مواضيع بناء السلام. وكمان إذا كانت اليمن أصلاً هي دولة تحت الحرب، لسنا جميعاً غارقين. يعني في منطقة التي أتيت منها مدينة تعز هي صحيح منطقة تحت الحرب وإحدى المدن التي تأثرت كثيرا من الحرب، وأنا نزحت لهذا السبب إلى العاصمة، لكن هناك الكثير من الشباب الذي يحتاجون إلى بناء القدرات. لذلك أنا أتمنى من المنظمات الدولية أن تعمل يعني ولو قسم، إضافة إلى المساعدات الإنسانية التي يحتاجها الشعب اليمني، أن تعمل قسم أو جزء من جهودها لتمويل مشاريع الشباب. ثالثاً القطاع الخاص، طبعاً القطاع الخاص هو أحد القطاعات المتضررة نتيجة للصراع، لذلك إذا ساهم من مبدأ المسؤولية المجتمعية بتمويل مشاريع الشباب، هذا سيكون لصالحنا كمؤسسات منظمات محلية أو كمبادرين شباب، وأيضاً لصالحهم. شكراً جزيلاً، تحية من اليمن السعيد.
Okay, thank you, Ola. Thanks to our researchers. Anyone wants to add? Okay, we have a couple of minutes.
هلا انتم عرفتوني، انا ميسي زعاتر من الاردن. هلا باختصار بحثي كان عن تاثير التوجيه، وهي الامتحانات التنافسيه، اثارها الصحيه واثارها على النفس تاعنا والصحة الجسدية للشباب في الأردن. بحثي اللي كان دوافعه للقيام في أسباب عديدة، ومنها تجربتي الشخصية مع أختي الكبرى، وكمان ملاحظاتي المباشرة من أصدقائي وأقربائي، وكمان عينتي اللي أنا أخذتها، وكمان أملي أن يكون هاي الندوة خطوة أولى لمعالجة هاي القضية واللي هي توجيهي. هلأ عنا أسباب كثيرة لهاي المشكلة، ومنها الضغط الاقتصادي على العائلة علشان يعطوا دروس خصوصية لإكمال هذه الشهادة. عندنا كمان الضغط المجتمعي، عندنا معدل الثانوية العامة هو المعيار الوحيد علشان ندخل تخصصات جامعية، وعندنا آخر سبب واللي أعتقد أنه بوجهة نظري أهم سبب، واللي هو تغيير السياسات والقوانين بكثرة بسبب اللي بتخص الثانوية العامة. عندنا كمان منهجية البحث اللي أنا أخذتها، واللي هي منهجية البحث الإجرائي. أخذت 7 أدوات، عندنا عينة كانت من الشباب والشابات، راعت النوع الاجتماعي. عندنا كمان هاي الأدوات منها الصورة المعبرة، واللي حملتها شعار أرسم دون أن تتكلم لعل الذي لا يسمع يراه. كانوا في عندنا كمان مثل تحليل الدوائر، تحليل الشجرة، وانتهت بالمقابلة الشخصية اللي انبنت على الأساس والثقة. عندنا كمان عندنا المنهجية، عندنا النتائج، واللي هي أصلاً أكدت أنه هناك رهبة في نفوس الطلاب بتأثر نفسياً وجسدياً عليهم. عندنا نسب مئوية كانت متفاوتة، وكانت الأعلى النسب هي نسبة رهبة الذكور، مع أني توقعت أنه الإناث we are stronger than we think. فننهي بالتوصيات. ممكن نعمل مراكز وسياسات، مراكز ودروس خصوصية مجانية عشان نخفف الضغط الاقتصادي. ممكن نعمل مدارس أو نعمل عدل بالمراكز والقاعات والمدارس في البنية التحتية. وعندنا كمان ممكن نعمل قوانين تسهل هذا الثانوية العامة، كناخذ نسبة من المدرسة عشان نقلل التوتر. عشان ضيق الوقت أنا هيك هنهي البحث تاعي هون، وأي استفسار ممكن أنا بستناكم عند بوستري. Thank you for listening me.
Thank you. Okay, that's not working. Okay, thank you. And now your questions, opinions Not now, okay. It's going to be outside after the award ceremony session. You will be free to ask whatever you want. All the participants, researchers are going to be outside to help you. And I'd like to ask John and Natalie to come out on the stage so we can start with the award ceremony session.
Thank you, Balkis. Firstly, I just want to give a big, round of applause to our young researchers. I just want to say that, despite some technical difficulties today, we've been working with them the past, day and a half. And before that, long before that, they submitted, the research. They went through a rigorous process, and they've shown a lot of fortitude and excellent research skills in the conversations they had yesterday, putting all of the pieces together. They put together excellent presentations, and I just want to say one more round of applause for our young researchers. Thank you so much. Thank you. So now we'll begin with the award ceremony, but before I begin with, in that matter, I would just like to invite our distinguished guests, Colin Lee and Anna Laura Sacco, to help us hand out the certificates, please. Oh, and Geert Capillar, please. Thank you. So you're going to hand out the names. So maybe we can stand here.
عبد الرحمن جراش، عبد الرحمن مختار، علي مطر، بنان علاونة، عماد الدين مصري، خالد زعرور، ملاك الديب، ميس زعاترة، محمد حفار. محمد مشلبن. نسمة السماعي. نور حمامي. علا الأخبري. رغد رسان. راود دندشي. ريم موسى. هشام الناصري. شمس البيشاوي. شروق نعيمات. يمنى إبراهيم. زهراء جاسم. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Wonderful. So now, as you all know, we're about to go to lunch, but before we do, I want to just make a few remarks. First is that not all of the young people came up on this stage, but all of them have participated and have done a wonderful job in putting this together. And they will all be recognized as well. We have certificates for you all. And they have their research on display outside as we make our way to lunch. There is the Winners Gallery. We encourage you all to go check it out. The winners will be next to their posters, and they'll be able to explain more details of their research. Without further ado, just one more applause for all of the young people. Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so please, lunch is just in front of us, behind the building that is in front of us on the sea view. But please pass by the posters. The posters are behind the gallery. When you get out of this room, on your left, behind the gallery, and you have also the youth who have a youth booth with social media and some activities on when you get out on your left side, please. The auditoriums for the afternoon are on Upper Campus. In West Hall, I don't think anyone is listening anyway. I'm not sure. So it's on West Hall, on Upper Campus, near the main gate.